Hello, everybody, and welcome to our SCWRM Generations of No Country for Old Men.
Okay, this could be interesting. No Country for Old Men, aka Javier Bardem's big break in Hollywood.
Yes.
Bardem.
Personally, I think he's had much better roles than this, but again, that's
Gotta
what
start with
Now,
somewhere.
from what I've seen,
Yeah.
this movie apparently has very good high reception. However, like with Gone Girl, the group apparently did not like this the first time they did it. Granted, it's one of our older commentaries,
and
like
as such, and like with Gonger, I forgot most of the movie, if I had to be honest. Nor I have the actual courage to listen again to the oral video. But from what Pedro told us, it's not even that usable because the audio movie bleeds in. So for all intents and purposes, you might as well keep this as the de facto commentary.
Anyway, so this is a movie that has Tommy Lee Jones as the top billed actor for this movie. Interesting. Oh, and Josh Brolin is in this too.
The actual main character is Llewellyn, played by Josh Brolin.
I'll wait and see who's the main character on this.
Oh, Tommy Lee Jones is the one that gets top billing, but the actual character we follow, like in terms of his actual quest, is actually Josh Brolin's character.
Again, I'll just wait and see.
I'm still more baffled that to this day, this is the only one movie made by the Cohen Brothers that we ever commented upon.
Okay, so
Ah, yes, the Cohen Brothers. Who are these guys?
they're incredibly talented filmmakers who made classics like Fargo. No
Country for Old Men, I guess.
Well, yeah, there's two Burn After Reading.
The Big Lebowski.
The Big Lebowski, yes, and their 2010 remake of True Grit, which was another 2010 movie that was better than The Social Network, for the record. But I digress. But
well, you won't hear me saying Last Airbender was better than Social Network, probably.
I don't think Jova, not even I'm that much of a maverick. But I don't think anyone could possibly make a reasonable argument for that. Even.
Well, in this video, I say all out now.
Hold on. They also made The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Okay, so these guys have a thing for making westerns, I see.
Oh, yeah. Okay. In 2007, they made their big Oscar winner that won Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, I think, and Best Actor for Javier Bardem.
And it also got him Best Director.
Yeah. So this is their big magnum opus, the movie that's the most acclaimed, which is something that I find baffling, considering I know the rest of the work by these guys, and I can definitely say I definitely prefer their other movies. But yeah, like Teo said, let's watch this again. Hopefully, Jova will be able to find something that is great about this movie that we missed.
All right.
So you already know this. It's a start right at zero because apparently this thing has only two logos: a Paramount Vantage one and the Miramax one. Apparently, digital copies have the two logos reversed, but that doesn't really change anything.
They should be the same. If your copy has any other logo besides them, it's roughly at like after 10 seconds. We'll just give you a small signal at that. But otherwise, it's just those two logos that might be in an order of choice. Take us away, Pedro.
3, 2, 1. Click.
So I know initially the running theme was supposed to be that these are Generations commentaries, but it seems that one consistent thing we've got going is this is yet another movie that's based off of a book.
Well, I mean, adaptations are very common, Drova, to be honest.
Still, though, bit of a coincidence when you think about it.
Okay, I'm going to restrain myself and not make a Lion King joke at the very opening scene of this movie. However, I want to take note of the Lion King joke that I could have made, but I'm still going not to do it so you guys can listen to the monologue.
Miramax, the makers of such classics like
Go ahead,
Tommy.
Go ahead, Tommy. Explain the premise.
So, like I mentioned,
did someone get Tommy Lee Jones' AI voice to do the narration?
I know, right?
I literally watched Captain America: The First Avenger earlier today.
You know what? Screw it. I can't resist anymore.
Wait,
you watched a bit more recently, Doug stuff more than us. This is the thing that he parodied when he did the segment at the beginning of a Garfield live-action movie review.
Oh, I'll admit I have not seen that review of his yet, but coolio.
Yeah, I love this monologue because it's literally Tommy Lee Jones talking about how back in my day things were a lot better and shit.
I
Because
guess hence the title "No
basic
Country
point,
for Old Men."
yeah, that's the basic point, Joe. But they literally made a movie about how old men feel like things were better back in their day. That's literally what this movie is. But you'll see.
I think I do get kind of the point of it. Apparently, this movie is genred as a neo-Western crime thriller. Neo-Westerns tend to be more modern takes on Westerns, some of which are ones that do lament how, while things are, for the most part, better in the modern age, there are some things that were more simple when distributing justice back in the days of the Wild
Hold
West
on.
compared to how they are now.
That line just now, I sure don't. I'm okay. I'm pretty confident
Salvernism.
I'm pretty confident that's not grammatically correct.
Again,
Is it?
possible Salvernism.
I guess. So guess what, guys? Javier Bardem's character, the bad guy, is already a cop right at the beginning of the movie. So yeah, I guess we're done.
Let me
Okay.
guess.
And that was No Country for Old Men. Dude, final thoughts.
Okay, so let me
That was a
guess.
short movie.
Okay,
Did
so
they just have to get something to narrate over Tommy Lee Jones's monologue?
all right.
Go on,
So
Jabba.
actually commentating on the movie. Is this in medias res?
No.
Oh, okay then. So in that case, let me guess. It's part of his plan to get
What is
caught.
that haircut? And yeah, again, strangely enough, to make it similar to a slasher kind of movie, have you heard about them as a weapon of choice, believe it or not, instead of being a traditional serial killer with a knife? He has a compressed air kind of thing.
Oh,
You
We
will
haven't
see
seen it. Well, we haven't seen it yet, but yeah, Taylor's
Well,
correct.
we have seen the fact that he was confiscated along with his arrest.
Why did he
Oh,
not
yeah, true.
notice?
Oh, he was
This
relatively.
cop is bad at his job.
This
was-
cop
he
only
was
had
rela-
2 days before retirement. That face.
Oh yeah.
The
Duh.
ecstasy of killing, I guess.
Basically,
Okay,
Tio, hold
Why
on.
are there no other cops here helping someone this dangerous?
That's where your tax money go, Jova. Damn, the cops were this sharp?
Yes.
Not just that, but like Shiroi said, like, aren't there any other cops in this cop station?
Well,
Yes,
okay.
It's a very small place.
But like, this is a very dangerous person, according to the narration. Like, who's admitted
Yeah,
to
it
saying,
should be more monitored.
like,
Yes,
he
Jova.
literally said he'd want to kill again. Like,
Yes,
There it
Jova.
is.
Okay. It seems to be one of those old village towns where the police force is not exactly that much in that regard.
They were waiting for possible an extradition.
Right, yeah, so they
Okay.
were probably just holding him in that regard.
Well, bang up
Inter-
job.
So-
In terms of the shackles thing, if you cut in deep enough and if you use like the edges of the cuffs, that could cut into the skin.
I mean, I can imagine he leaves marks, but managing to cut deep.
Well,
So-
to be fair, it's been done in plenty of movies and stuff like that. I mean, from my guess is, it's metal. So if you strangle someone's neck with the metal of the handcuffs, it would work as a strangling, wouldn't it?
It also can
also, No, go on.
cut into the skin, so
Yeah.
so far I don't see anything that like wouldn't work.
Oh no. I don't have a problem with that either.
And yeah, he kills people like that. It's admittedly, it's actually very creative. I haven't seen it being used like that, in many media.
I don't see
It's
the
a good-
idea.
It's a good way that doesn't leave evidence,
Alright.
essentially.
So
Anyway,
here's our hero, Llewellyn, played by Josh Brolin.
Let's see the idea for a second.
Yes, Jova?
Tio, Doug actually also parodied this movie pretty much throughout his review of Freddy Got Fingered.
So yeah, I didn't see the review because I don't like that movie anyway.
Don't worry, Theo, nobody does.
All right.
also,
so,
Tio, banging someone up was the cop's job, but,
So from
yes,
what I remember about Javier Bardem's performance in this movie, the first time I did the commentary of it, I literally had no clue how that won an Oscar. Hell, my physical acting is that stiff. How come I don't win an Oscar?
I'm gonna have to wait and see if that's the case.
Okay, what I do
here's-
remember. Sorry, go on.
Here's my first problem: the pacing. Do we really need to watch Josh Brolin walk slowly through this for this field.
I mean, it is just the start of the film, so
Oh, he
there's a
actually did
point
got
and
the deer.
purpose to it. Like, with establishing
trust me.
stuff, I'll wait and see.
Oh,
Oh,
blood.
Yummy. Cranberry jam.
It's grape juice.
I'm guessing the scene is meant to pretty much show us that he is good at tracking in that regard, which will
Well,
come into play
admittedly,
later.
between the expression and the slow walking, it almost looks like he doesn't want to do it, which I don't think it's the intention. There it is.
Wounded.
Limping.
All right, might as well explain something while this is going on. This movie is
Oh.
actually based on a book
Oh.
called also No Country for Old Men, surprisingly, written by Cormac McCarthy. I will talk about some stuff regarding the book later.
Okay. Also, if I recall correctly, this is a movie that stylistically, intentionally decides to have no score whatsoever.
Yeah, there's no music in this movie whatsoever.
There is actually.
The credits, I think.
Yeah, it's a Carter Burwell.
Huh.
Oh, weird, because most of the time I don't even hear anything.
I guess they did something similar to what Ridley Scott did to the first Alien. Originally, they wanted maybe to have a score, but then decided to not to do it and, cut most of what they had.
I could see that being the case. It's interesting the mood that this is setting, somewhat similar to some of the older westerns of the times, too.
I think also the choice of having a cloudy weather is intentional, to symbolize the fact that, darker times are ahead
Oh
or
no,
something.
guys.
Bad people.
The dog's dead, and also the people are too.
Well, we're actually about to learn what happened here in a moment.
Well, whatever it is, it's not pretty.
Well, yeah.
Smile for the camera. Oh.
Oh, look at that! Look at that, Shiroi. Well, actually, never mind. I don't think it was Anton who did this. Now that I remember, I think no. This was something. This was just a drug deal that went badly wrong, if I remember correctly.
So it would seem.
Sorry, Shiroi, but we can't blame the bad guy on this one.
I mean, someone can be. Just a matter of finding. Also, Ford.
No, the thing is, I was about to make, oh god, Anton killed the doggo, now he must die, a joke, but it doesn't work because he didn't actually do this.
Hi.
Hello there.
It means water, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine with the desert environment and everything.
He's speaking Spanish.
Guessing this movie takes place across, well, not across, but close to the border.
I don't know the exact location.
Let me check,
Somewhere else. He's probably Mexican, but yeah, he is probably Mexican. Yes. We're actually gonna get more Mexicans later on in the movie.
West
so yeah,
Texas.
that's
Okay.
probably it.
So
That would explain
yeah.
also the Southernism of
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones.
You see a lot of westerns that take place in Texas.
I wonder why.
I told you, ain't got no agua. You know, Llewellyn seems to be incredibly calm and collected about the fact that he just came across a fucking
Oh,
shooting and a shit
man.
ton of drugs.
I think
mean,
that's
if it were me, I would be at the very least he doesn't even give as much of a huh.
my guess is like, well, he's in some sort of profession that pretty much desensitizes him to this kind of stuff.
Texas, there we go. There's also the fact that the movie did, at least I guessing deliberately, hasn't told us yet what Josh Brolin's character, proper role or job is, if he actually has to be trusted, if he's a criminal
said that-
himself.
By the way, he said there ain't no lobos. Lobos means wolves, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's weird. With the Texas, it should be more coyotes.
Texas is one of those states that's big enough to have several different climates and areas.
Critters. Okay.
And if you look to your right, ladies and gentlemen, you can see Neil Breen shooting another one of his movies.
But Pedro, I'm
one of
not
the many-
seeing the skeleton proper. I cannot recognize that.
True.
And if you look to your left, you'll see that they are shooting the horror film Rubber, the movie about a killer tire.
I would have gone with Manos the Hands of Fate instead.
That's
Oh
a
my God,
little
two trees,
too old.
2 trees.
Because Rubber came out in 2010, so they could have been filming it at this time.
Okay. Okay.
Only under 2 hours left to go.
This is also kind of one of your question. Like, high noon is the worst time you should going around with in a hot climate.
Yeah.
I wonder if he has a reason to be out at that time. Almost like he's waiting for something.
Or he has found someone
Oh boy.
that needs a new pair of boots.
I'm also gonna take
this guy looks worse for wear.
I'm also going to take advantage of this generations to address some of the defenses I've heard over the years for scenes for the problems that I usually have with this movie. So, like my comeback regarding those things. But I'll mention that when it becomes more relevant.
Let me see, what was the general consensus here? Bolstered by powerfully performances from Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin, and Tommy Lee Jones. No Country for Old Men finds the Cohen Brothers spinning cinematic gold out of Cormac McCarthy's grim, darkly fun novel.
There you go, Dwebs. Cinematic gold.
Well, I can see gold, just not in its pure form.
Gold.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, kind of a Power Rangers movie instead, the recent one.
All right. Well, you mean the new Netflix one? Is it out yet?
No,
Yeah,
no, not that one. I meant the 2017 film, but I haven't watched that other one yet.
The new one is, if I calculate, has just come out.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out then. Okay, so yeah, this guy now died, of course, and Llewellyn decides to take the bag of money, or the
Don't
suitcase of
mind
money,
if I
rather.
do.
Not for nothing, Llewellyn, but shouldn't you, I don't know, call the police about this?
Again, we
the
don't quite
movie
know
makes-
about the guy
yeah.
yet, and to be fair,
We don't
it's
know if it's trustworthy or not.
like, you know, I mean, and it's the start of the movie, so I'm fine with them setting up mystery as to the morality or what side of anything these characters are on.
Sure. I'm just, saying.
But yeah, with that kind of liquid needs to be hidden someplace. Well, yeah, the guns too. Okay, I don't know what movie is that. Damn it.
Heh.
Well, aren't you sunshine and rainbows? Feeling guilty, Llewellyn?
I mean, literally robbed the dead. Actually curious. Let me check what kind of name origin has for Llewellyn.
Anyway, his wife Loretta is played by Tess Harper.
That name sounds familiar, but I can't quite place it.
She was in El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie.
Ah,
Okay then.
I guess she's used for these kind of roles.
She's Diane Pinkman in that.
Oh, she was in one episode of Murder, She Wrote. Interesting.
Huh. How about that? She's Pam from Grey's Anatomy.
Uh,
A show that is still running to this day, amazingly, even though the actual Grey character, I believe, spun off into her own show called Private Practice, which this actress did also show up into. Alright. I think I'm starting to get some of why this would definitely work for a lot of folks, but if you're not into this sort of film, it won't work for you. It seems to be a film that definitely likes to work on slow build-up, and there are a lot of stuff that you may catch in certain details here and there. Granted, some of these details may not pay off, but again, from my observation so far, it does seem to be going for a slow, methodical build-up, which, you do tend to see in a lot of older
Yes,
Western flicks, so...
Anyway, I found the meaning. Llewellyn, it's influenced by the Welsh word liw, pardon for pronunciation, Shiroi, which means lion.
You could just go to the left.
What kind of Tom Cruise joke can we make out of this?
Actually, I'm more reminded to a more down-to-earth because it's not a plain version of the chase from north to northwest.
Hello and welcome to the Prometheus School. It's going to be called the No Country for Old Men School of Running Away from Things.
I can understand because a car can still follow even if you change direction. This is not an going on a trajectory.
Okay, so I have a question. Okay, so he was feeling guilty, so he went back to the site where to, I guess, try to check on the guy, I guess. But I was under the impression that the guy had already died by this point.
Well, to be fair, there are some bouts where people like that can just be in like a coma or whatnot, even
also,
though they
if
appear
I
to be
understand
dead.
correctly, they were not just an isolated gang. They might have had friends.
That too.
Doggo, no!
Oh, they are natural swimmers anyway, so I'm thinking, if I recall correctly, he's gonna be fine.
Yeah, that dog seems to be doing much better than him, honestly.
Well, he doesn't have bullets in his body.
Yeah, he was shot in the arm, to be fair. But there you go. Haha! Take that, doggo.
What's stopping that dog from just swimming to the shore and then nabbing you?
I guess I'm gonna shoot the dog.
Self-defense.
Yes, gonna shoot the dog.
Damn.
Scooby-Dooby don't.
No! Actually, let me track how much of this is updated on Does the Dog Die?
That site has the best name, I swear.
It's not, like, much like TV Tropes, it's very informative.
So yeah, this is going to start the primary plot, which is Llewellyn trying to, now that you're allowed to see, in fact, that the police is now looking for the bag of money, which of course means that Llewellyn might, get himself in trouble.
Although,
in the meantime, here's Anton. Remember, sorry, Shira, go on.
No, I'll wait for you to finish. I was just gonna pronounce the thing.
Sure. Here's our villain, Anton, again. Remember, he was part of that. He was in sort of that, and he wants that bag of money. So obviously, he's going to be the big opponent to Llewellyn. Go on, Shirai.
With his stupid 80s boy band haircut. It's Llewellyn.
Gesundheit.
There you go.
Is that supposed to be like a Welsh name or something?
Yes, I checked. A link that I posted. Apparently, it's derived from the Welsh word for lion.
Oh, I know how you pronounce it because they actually do pronounce a couple names in the movie. So I actually was aware of how you pronounce
They
it.
have
Sorry.
a double L is.
Okay. Anyway, to answer your question, Jova, which I forgot if it was you or someone else who mentioned it, the idea behind Javier Bardem's performance is that he's trying to be a type of killer where their psyche has essentially become a flat line. Not in the sense that he's dumb, but he's completely almost emotionless, outside from when he has to be sadistic in killing someone or reaching his goal.
I do think
So
he's.
he exists, and that's it.
I do think he's getting that point across pretty well so far. Like, granted, I've yet to see the movie as a whole, but I can definitely get why people would dig this performance. He definitely feels like that guy who just... Okay, he is definitely a bad guy, but you can see that he does not see right and wrong. He just sees it as it is or it isn't.
Also, correction, because I just learned from the site that I was checking, apparently Dave's those at the beginning were not even deers, apparently pronghorns.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right. My thing with my problem with Anton is that I feel like, okay, yes, I get that you're trying to make him more like a machine rather than a man, like a very sociopathic person. I understand. My problem, I actually have more of a problem with his methods, where his way of dealing with people is sometimes they'll kill people and sometimes they'll just let them live. Like, and there doesn't seem to be any consistency with how he does it.
I'm
It's just
guessing.
hold on, let me just finish. He comes across to me as his behavior comes across as a bit random to me. And when it's this random and devoid of any kind of major reasoning, it feels hard it's hard for me to really understand the character. Go on.
Oh, he's gonna decide with a coin toss, isn't he?
So basically, Christopher Nolan. Well, actually, no. This movie.
Now, this
by the
came out
time this movie
before
came
Dark
out-
Knight.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but the novel came out way before. Let me see when the novel came out.
2005.
Okay, so Nolan maybe read the novel and maybe took that idea as well, I guess.
I mean, to be fair, coin toss has always been Two-Face's thing, but okay, from what I can gather, it seems like Anton has some deciding factors with when to kill or whatnot. Like, okay, in terms like with the guy whose car he took, he deemed that as a necessity. This is a guy that, he is not completely set on killing or not, so he's leaving it up to a coin toss in that regard. Like, and from the way he sees it, no right or wrong, just, it's in God's hands, essentially.
And I'm also
Sure.
guessing another thing they might be going for is that the unpredictability factor makes him more dangerous because you understand even in universe a person can, like in this case the owner store, can understand he can be killed any second now, but you don't know what to do.
As for the performance itself, like I understand. Okay, he's supposed to be a sociopath. Okay, gotcha. Thing is, pretty much all the performances in this movie are just as monotone as his. So honestly, if anything, it kind of makes it seem like everybody's a sociopath in this movie.
Honestly, I don't get that feeling. From Anton, I definitely get more so a feeling that, this guy is, like, dead inside, outside, dead to the world like a moving corpse. Other people here may feel mundane, but I feel like it's more so just, the banality of life in their regards, as opposed to just they sound like they're dead inside like Anton.
So
I get
just,
the idea it
Colin-
doesn't make much for an entertaining product, but I guess that's what they were instead going
So
for in a
is
more
this-
artsy
so is-
way.
So I'm guessing it's his daughter. She's played by a Scottish actress, Kelly MacDonald.
Wait, I thought that was his wife from earlier, or...
I get the idea maybe this girl wasn't in there at the time. Let me check.
Well, he said your mother, so...
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, Kelly MacDonald already heard the name, but let me check again. Right, her first role was in Trainspotting, Waves.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't she Merida's voice actress?
Yes, she is.
Okay, then.
Things happen.
In the wise words
That-
of
and that
words
sums
of
up the plot of
virtue,
the
shit happens.
That's actually it's the plot of any movie. To be fair, things happen.
I
I don't know,
mean,
Dwibs.
What
In
was
after
that?
last what exactly happened in after last season, Dwibs?
Horrible
God.
shapes. What was
Jeez.
that line from Ghostbusters 2? Sometimes the shit happens, and who you're gonna call?
eh,
Also, that guy who just exited the car, I know it's not him because he was dead by this point, but it kind of looks a bit like Donald Pleasance, as he was in the Halloween movies, just with a bit more back hair. But sadly, he was dead already by this point. He's a screwdriver.
Okay, about your thingy, Joe. There, I'm gonna counter that. To be honest, literally everyone in this movie talks with this weird Texas drawl as though they're half asleep.
I don't really get that, honestly. Like, it
Is
sounds
it
like
possible, but it's just as much of a stereotype as instead the polar opposite, the way over the top, belt buckling, big hat Texan.
oh god, that too. Like, no, I don't really feel like everyone's on the same level as Anton there, and I'm guessing maybe that's why a lot of people didn't see it that way, because no, I really don't get that. Like, I can definitely diversify Anton from the others. Oh my god, Tommy
Is
Lee
Tommy
Jones was
Jones,
born to play
native,
this
though?
role.
Native of Texas.
let me
Was
check.
he born in Texas? That's what I mean.
Tommy Lee
Yes,
Jones, yes, he was
San
born in
Saba.
Texas. So yeah, he was born to play this role. God, I've only seen him for a few seconds, and it already feels like it fits him like a glove.
Oh, well, yeah, well, he's Texan, so of course it would.
Just like the old days, we ride with the horses.
So
Is it a
yeah,
Bush beer
both him and his
commercial?
deputy,
Believe it or
his deputy are, of course, investigating the whole drug deal thing and trying to find the money as well. Go on.
So they're Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers were actually a force that originated in the Wild West and still are a thing to this day. Obviously,
I mean, yeah, like fucking Chuck Norris. Damn, that's...
yeah, they're starting to
this
get
movie-
covered with
thi-
dirt.
This movie doesn't pull any punches when it comes to dead animals.
I will
Why
give him-
did you have to remind me that Chuck Norris is still around?
Shiri, we're getting a video game where he stars in.
Pardon?
Where there's no more logic.
What is it? Is it a video game based off of Sidekicks?
No, it's the one that we saw at the Game Awards that includes also Vanilla Ice for some reason.
Okay, I must have forgotten about that
I'll
game.
find your title as it goes on.
That is a good question, though. Why haven't the coyotes come to these carcasses yet?
Apparently,
Coyotes are racist.
Apparently, a coyote will not eat a Mexican, so coyotes are racist.
Apparently,
okay. So apparently, there was a point where Javier Bardem wasn't going to be playing Anton because of scheduling conflicts. So they had Mark Strong on standby, but they sorted out those scheduling problems, so Bardem was able to come back.
I don't think I want to see Mark Strong with a wig on top of him.
That'd be a sight to see. Or
Oh,
who
yeah,
knows?
it's a mess.
Maybe he would just spontaneously grow some hair for the role.
Okay, I want to address. Oh god, this scene. Okay, I guess I'll wait for now. All right, now here's one of the most. Now we're about to get two of the most really dull, boring, pointless scenes in the movie. So yeah, finally. Okay, so Anton comes finally to see if he can find Llewellyn. All right.
Oh boy.
Rude.
At least he knocked first.
He did. How nice of him. So let me guess. He's there to scope him out, but thankfully for Llewellyn's case, he ain't home.
Yeah, both Llewellyn and the wife are not home.
Reading
So,
reading
yeah.
other people's correspondence is very rude.
Now,
The mail is
Now, you would
probably...
think-
Oh.
Sorry, go on.
The mail is probably going to be how he figures out some of their daily schedules and tries to
Yeah.
track them down later on. So I can see the
Kinda,
point
yeah.
of this scene in that regard.
Oh, sure. That being said, you'd think after he does that, the scene ends, right? Look, he's taking a breath now. Yeah, like Jova guessed. See? Okay, now I know what to do. Time to go and chase him? No. Instead, he decides to stop by the kitchen to grab a bottle of milk.
What a scoundrel.
And then he sits here. Check us out.
Oh, I get it. When he's...
And he starts watching a TV that is off, by the way.
If you might have seen this as a reaction image, actually.
It's to show
Look
that
at
he is...
That is if that is not the face of boredom, I don't know what is. See, and Anton, you realize the TV is not on, right? And that's it. The scene done.
You know this character's not right in the head,
This
you know.
one. Pay attention to this. Let's show pay attention to this scene. I want to mention about this scene when it ends. Go on.
I think this is definitely showing that Anton is
His
not a
psychosis,
people person, and yeah, it's his psychosis.
Where does he work?
Can you tell me his
So,
place of business?
What can
And
you
I
tell
guess
me
he
about
went
the
to-
Reapers?
She wouldn't be able to tell him that even, Shira. That being said, okay, thanks, Cohen Brothers, for wasting my time with that pointless scene. Like, seriously.
I wouldn't say that they're wasting your time with that scene, honestly. It's to show how Anton functions in some regards here and there, but to also show that while he is a sociopath, that doesn't mean he just goes killing willy-nilly over there. Because if he just killed that woman, that might start drawing unwanted attention. Like, keep in
Surely,
mind, when he killed the guy out in the desert, that was out in the boondocks. That's not going to get as much attention in that regard.
Surely, though, there must have been a more exciting way of conveying that, a more entertaining way of conveying that, no? Instead of just a conversation that leads to nothing.
I think part of what he wants to do is to create again tension to make the audience ponder: is he gonna kill this woman as well or not?
Pretty
See,
much.
I can see it being a thematic
yeah,
thing
but
for his
that's- well,
character,
okay,
like
I was
Jova
gonna-
said.
Well, I was actually going to wait a bit before I address that, but since you guys brought it up, I guess I might as well do it right now. Yeah, that's one of the primary arguments I hear, that these slow-paced moments are meant to build tension. Thing is, this is just me. I only feel tension in those parts when I actually am afraid of the killer, when the killer is intimidating. I don't find Anton intimidating, to be honest, because again, they didn't really establish much of a character to him outside of the external traits that Joe already mentioned. Like, I don't really know anything about him. Like, he's like, what kind of person is he? What does he usually do for a living? Like, I don't know much of anything about him. So I kind of just see him as a
We did got a briefing
uh,
during Tommy Jones' narration at the beginning of the movie, but I
Yeah.
think that was kind of it.
I will
Yeah,
say
like
this:
that.
I do feel like
to me, he's more of an obstacle for the good guys rather than an actual character. But go on.
I feel like our lack of knowledge of him is what definitely would help the fear of him for people. Now, granted, at the end of the day, a lot of his stuff may come down to personal preference or whatnot. Like, let me put it like this. If you're not a fan of horror movies, then probably typically the stuff you see in horror stuff might not appeal to someone who's not a fan of that. Like, if you're not into the very, very slow, methodical way of how the Western goes, I can definitely get how Anton wouldn't appeal to you. Oh, so that's what was
What do
the
you
point of
mean?
him looking into the
What-
TV.
Yeah, but what is that even supposed to mean?
Basically-
what am I supposed to get out of that?
Basically, this shows Tommy Lee Jones' deduction that he was there at the time as well. He's seen the same things as me. Ergo, he's talking about how they both have stared into the television in that regard. Which
How
I guess
can
was
you tell
another
that
point of
Anton
that
looked at the
previous...
television, though?
He probably could tell by the indents of the prints left in the couch, as well as the fact that the milk was
the
left
glass
out
of
in that
milk,
regard,
yeah.
despite Llewellyn supposedly not having been in recently in that regard. So, ergo,
Yeah,
I
it
guess
does
that does also add to the point of that last scene. Like, while it's
Trying to do some detective work.
and it's showing how it's a chase of a chase of a chase. Everyone's chasing after someone except for Llewellyn. What I can garner also is that this movie seems to definitely have a theme of morality here. Like, Llewellyn is a guy who tried to do the right thing, black and white morality in that regard, but as a result, look where he is now, trying to potentially do the right thing.
Okay, so I want to comment on this. So now Llewellyn is going to hide the money in that vent. However, we can't just, show him putting the suitcase in a quick little cut, right? Of course not. We have to watch him count the money, close the suitcase. Then we have to watch him tie the thing with whatever that is. Then we have to see him taking all this stuff. We have to see every single slow step when you could just cut to him putting the suitcase and then leaving.
I mean, it
Like,
doesn't feel...
I understand the whole building tension thing, but building tension over what? A suitcase?
Honestly, I don't really feel like this takes that long. It's done in, just a few seconds, honestly.
I don't know. I just hate having my time wasted.
Again, I guess I'm just not really feeling like time has actually been wasted. Like, each scene seems to have had a good enough point. I guess the only one I could maybe say was a bit of a dragging one was for the bit where Llewellyn ended up stumbling on the drug dealing gone wrong, because that took a while, but otherwise, I don't really feel like any scene has gone on uber long.
So what were they shoving in the vent there?
The money.
The money.
Okay.
Well, again, I guess, Pedro, in that case, the scene needed to be a bit longer to showcase that.
Okay, well, welcome to that scene from the start of Evangelion.
Getting
Even
the robot
Gillian
up there.
Neil
And now he's
Western.
calling it his job. I think sure he's calling his workplace.
That was a great conversation. I'm searching for Sarah Connor.
Boring conversation, anyway.
See, okay, going back to the characters. To my point about the characters, I understand that they don't want. I understand that this movie's trying to go for a dark, serious tone. I understand that. That being said, I don't think that. I still think you can do that while still giving the characters some kind of life and passion into them. Because I honestly, I'm gonna have to side with Wiz on this one. To me, every time I hear these characters speak, they just sound bored. I don't know. It's just like
Again,
there are better ways of doing this.
I mean, I wouldn't bring it up if like the characters were just speaking slightly different. I mean, have the same accent, sure, because of where you are, but I wouldn't expect them all to have a long, boring, drawly voice.
I just really don't get that. Like, again, Anton's the one with the sociopathic monotone voice. Everyone else does have a sense of emotion, sure, subdued at times, but not emotionless like you guys seem to think. Like, again, maybe I'm just not seeing what you're seeing in that regard.
Well, in this case, hearing.
My
Yeah.
main problem as well is that I just find the characters to be underdeveloped. I barely know anything about Llewellyn. I don't see any reason to care
I feel like,
about whether or not he gets away or not.
I guess for me, I feel like, as we're learning more, I feel like we know enough to at least get the sense of stakes here. Lowen is a guy who got a bit greedy, but then tried to do the right thing, and now he's paying for it by having to run for his life. Anton is the sociopathic killer on his tail, essentially, and then Tommy Lee Jones is, well, I guess one of the other protagonists. Like, honestly, I don't feel like there's one leading... Oh.
That's rude.
Dang. Anyway, I don't feel like there's one leading protagonist so much as this is pretty much a movie that is balanced out by our three main leads, Tommy Lee Jones, Javier Bardem, and Josh Brolin in that regard.
Also, what are you eating?
Breakfast.
And
I can see that. I just wanted.
Even if that is the case, Jova, that's not enough for me. I want to know what kind of personality Llewellyn is, and I don't really see one.
I feel like we know enough, but again, if it's not for you, it's not for you.
I will say this: I already do not have too much of a, not necessarily positive, but the movies that I saw from the Cohen Brothers tended to not grip me as much as they would. The Big Lebowski, of course, is the one exception because it is entertainment on its own. But Fargo was okay. I did not particularly care too much for it. And Brother Where Art Thou was just bizarre. As someone who actually literally grew up having to learn about the source material as in the poem of the Odyssey, having a reinterpretation for rural America just felt odd.
Have you watched The Big Lebowski?
I just mentioned
just
it
said
before.
he did.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, Big Lebowski. I've seen glimpses of that, not the whole thing. From what I can understand... From what I can understand, the Coen Brothers... Okay, they're not samey all around. Like, their movies are varied enough. Sawed-off shotgun.
Yeah,
But...
I'm not an expert in firearms, but is this fine to do? Doesn't it actually create potential problems as you risk to actually injure yourself?
The sawed-off shotgun maneuver is one that has a bit of risk.
Like,
but
I
also...
saw Evil Dead 2. I know what that kind of is. I just wonder, realistically, would that not cause problems?
It can cause problems, but usually the reasons people do it are for multiple reasons. One, like as seen in the Terminator, to better conceal the weapon in that regard. And also, some does allow them to have a bit of a more powerful kick in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. It's also, let me put it this way, like, in terms of like a Western type movie, I could definitely recommend True Grit over this, the remake that they made. I mean, like, because those, I feel like the Coen Brothers are at their best when they give their characters and idiosyncratic qualities to them. That's what they do in their best films, like Burn After Reading and Big Lebowski, and in here, this is of course them trying to do something different, something more Kubrick-esque. I can definitely see inspiration from the way Barry Lyndon is directed, in particular.
What kind of? Oh, sorry, go on.
And I get that. I just like even Barry Lyndon, the characters I felt like had more spunk to them.
I will say
sorry, go on.
I will say this. Unlike, unlike Gone Girl, which, I needed until, even by the midpoint I was calling it, but I sort of needed, like, the end of the film to get the praise for it. This one's a bit easier for me to get the praise for, because for the type of genre it's trying to fulfill, and for the people who are into this type of stuff, I can easily see how this would grab people's attention here. It's unorthodox, but it's done in a way that can indeed ramp up tension.
Also, I need a reminder because for what just happened, because I'm guessing it's a line that you mentioned before in this game. I'm guessing there is a tracker inside the suitcase with the money, because that's how Javier Bardem is tracking it down.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, Joe.
It's an unorthodox one, but a tracker nonetheless. But yeah, no. Again, what I feel for this movie really does work is like, well, for the ideas that they have, they do commit to them well, with the characters remaining consistent in their development here and there. As well as it, again, going to... Oh my god, this is another coincidence for our commentary picks, but we have yet another movie about the questions of morality here and there. Like, shoot, that is now 3 in a row.
Honestly, I still take Clockwork Orange as the best movie trying to do that concept. But
I think it's easy to more easy to grasp in there. Well, it's technically easy relatively in this too, because Javier Bardem is definitely immoral, without remorse, and just potentially a monster to begin with.
Okay.
But,
The vibe I always got from this film, to be honest, is that there was always something missing. Like, I get what it's going for, but there's something just not there, and I'm not getting into. I can't get into this.
as I mentioned, it was finishing to mention before, and like again, my experience with the Coen Brothers is already not as stellar, but I can recognize it's more of a case of me not understanding potentially their stuff. But I had to argue that from the movies that I did watch, this is the one that I tended to remember the least, so I can imagine it might be a case where I also cared about it the least.
I will say, this movie is working for me so far, but we are still at a point where it could go either way for me. Like,
We're not even halfway through.
Yeah, like, I mean, from what I can garner, this seems to be the kind of film that if you get it, you get it. If you are not into the sort of tropes that this movie does, it's definitely not going to be for you in that regard. And so, again,
Actually,
again, as for why this movie got praise, my overall observation is it doesn't necessarily do something exactly wrong per se. Like, okay, let me put it like this. I'm not saying that this will appeal to everyone in the sense that it did nothing wrong, but in terms of the plan it has, it seems to actually, executed without, being unbelievably dumb or stupid. Like, now, something like Gone Girl. I know what that thing's trying to do, but it really does not work. Again, a lot in part due to just the bad ending overall. Whereas, again, granted, for all I know, maybe this one will also choke in some places, but again, it does feel like you could go either way on it, but it does feel like it at least knows what it's doing.
Okay, can I mention something about the whole building tension thing? You know what would help me in feeling the tension? Tense music. I mean, look at the Alien films, like the first two at least. Like whenever there's a big scene where the characters are trying to get away from the alien, there's actual intense music that gets you in that mood, that makes you feel the tension. Would it really kill them to put some tense music in this?
I can also get how lack of music helps with the tension for some folks. I really do feel like this comes to a bout of different strokes for different folks, because you do see some productions that actually use the lack of music to build up the tension. The trope being nothing is scarier.
I think a low-key one, like a drumming one, potentially could have done the job on both parties, in the sense that it's something that it's almost imperceptible, so creating still radio sound, but if you have a keen hearing, you actually can, hear it going, potentially.
But even then, like, my main thing is that my thing about the whole tension thing, it boils down to this: if I don't care about the characters involved in the tenseness, in the tense situation, I don't feel the tension. That's just how I am. I need to care in order to feel that tension.
I was trying to sleep.
Well, now he will be sleeping
eternal.
forever.
All right, Jova. Okay, so in that case, let me ask you: in your opinion, so far, do you see the cinematic gold, as the critics say?
Again, like, in terms of whatever plan it has, okay, this is definitely a very unique movie. Like, you will not see this movie commonly, and I can definitely see that appealing to folks in there. Now, I'm not sure if I'm ready to call it cinematic gold, because we're still only part way through the film. I gotta see how it turns out in that regard. But, again, I will say this. I am overall liking what I see so far. Now, it is by no means gonna be my top favorite. Like, it's... Okay, that was funny.
before
Sure.
killing him.
One point for one funny scene.
And I will say this also. It's probably still not going to top Lone Ranger 2013 for me anytime soon
Actually,
either. But
not necessarily to that, but I'm actually curious on one thing. What movies was this competing against when it came out? Let me see.
Transformers, I think?
Okay.
Well, okay. I guess. To be fair, Pedro,
No. Actually, don't worry, Tail. I'll still take this over that one.
Yeah, I was about to say, by usual comparison, this is shorter than Revenge of the Fallen.
Not just that. Not just that. This movie is not offensively racist.
Okay,
but
so
whatever.
let's see.
I don't want to go into a rant about Michael Bay again. Moving on.
Okay. So there was Spider-Man. Well, I think in some countries. No, wait. Spider-Man.
I'm just
3?
checking on my own, Jova. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, 2007 was the year of prequels. We got Pirates of the Caribbean free, Shrek the Third, and Spider-Man free. Oh, I
was just checking during the same time this came out, just to see what was he competing against in theaters.
Okay, when it comes to the award season, I can tell you that I'll take Ratatouille over this any day.
What did Ratatouille win?
Best animated feature, but as far as I'm concerned,
so the Disney section
as well.
I'm gonna check also what it was competing at the Oscars later, but let me check in.
I cannot think of any best picture, not the other best picture. Sure, you haven't said much. Okay, so Job has already made his piece. What's your take on the movie so far?
It's all right.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, goody.
Shiroi.
Sorry, go on.
Earlier I mentioned a movie called Rubber. I'm kidding you not, Shiroi. Rubber is a horror film about a tire who kills people but falls in love with a woman.
All right. Yeah, so it's kind of like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, as in the ludicrousness is of the parody factor, but it's, put it up to the extreme.
So that's what happened to Taya Vagina from Sailor Moon.
Shira showed me a picture, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, around the same time, this was competing against the B movie.
Oh, Woody Harrelson.
Martian Child, Borderland, Fred Claus, Lions for Lambs, Southland Tales, and the Robert Zemeckis Beowulf movie.
So basically, B movie
Paramount
was probably the biggest
contribution.
So basically, the B movie was probably the biggest competition for this.
Sure, let's go with that.
That's funny.
Well, in terms of box office, I can see that, to be fair.
But by all laws of cinematography, a movie should not be able to stand on itself.
Shut up. Anyway, for context audience, look up Sailor Moon villains and you will not be disappointed.
Yep.
So we got
Let's
Woody
just
Harrelson.
say the anime gets pretty creative with those villains.
Well, God bless it for it.
But anyway, if I recall correctly, this is the deputy gathering information about our...
Is that Woody Harrelson?
I literally have said that several times, yes.
Yes, he is. I actually forgot it was Woody Harrelson, actually.
Woody Harrelson. So, before he became crazy, Cletus Cassidy was a good guy, I guess. Anyway, though, Harrelson's also born in Texas.
I mean, sure, works.
I think that was the casting rule. Cast everyone. Okay, I would say that, but Kelly MacDonald's from Scotland, so.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, this movie had a dispute in 2008 where Tommy Lee Jones disputed for bonus as the improper expense deduction, and he came out of this with 17.15 million, box office bonus. Damn. Although it settled with a 2.6 million over that error. So it was Paramount screwing up.
Oh dear. Wait. I love that the same corporation that releases the Sonic movies released this.
Well, again, everyone is, a bit more happy with what Paramount is doing recently. But we have to remember that they have their history of fuck-ups of their own, just like any movie company.
Definitely, yeah.
Hi, Kitty.
Oh, Kitty. So, Thanos, what are you going to do now?
Well, yes. Let's compare him to that instead of the protagonist of Spike Lee's Old Boy.
Oh yeah, that's true, Shiro. I forgot to tell you. Yeah, this, in case you forgot, this is the guy who played Thanos.
He also played Jonah Hex in another Western movie.
Wasn't Thanos played by two people though?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Well, his first appearance at the end of the Avengers movie.
Oh, that. Well, yeah, but in the Infinity duology, he was played by this guy.
Well,
right.
okay, he did have a few appearances played by a different guy before they settled on Josh
Like
Brolin.
the
Yeah.
first Guardian of
Was
the
it-
Galaxy movie.
Yeah, wasn't the Guardians of the Galaxy appearance already with Josh Brolin in it by that point?
Okay,
I know he showed up as Thanos at least once before Infinity War, if I remember correctly.
let me just get up the stuff. So he was first played by Damien Poitier.
In the first Avengers movie, right?
Let's see. Huh. It's funny because he also had a role in Captain America Civil War. Yeah, he showed up in Avengers. After that, I believe it was all Josh Brolin. But yeah, there you go. Technically, Thanos has been portrayed by two different people.
Sure. It's kind of like how Red Skull in Endgame was played not by Hugo Weaving.
What a shame.
Well, here's the accolades.
Well, that's the same thing. Remember, like we had both. Oh yeah, now you got to get.
Although, I'll give him credit. It's unless you're like a big connoisseur, you might have trouble even telling that that's not Hugo Weaving.
Yep, that'd be a tracker, all right.
The semblance I'm definitely getting is, again, this is definitely a movie where, you know, if you're into it, you're into it. And I know some people say, well, no duh, if a movie appeals to you, it appeals to you better than somebody it doesn't. But this definitely feels like a movie that lives and breathes off of the audience, you know, being into these sort of tropes. And it seems like they got lucky that the general audience were into this.
That's a thing, Joe, but I am into this, like I've said, and I
No.
genuinely believe the execution.
Maybe it's a case where it doesn't gel with the genre, because again, this tries to be a new Western, while 2001 it is a sci-fi product.
It doesn't even necessarily have to do with that too. Like it's more so that I don't find the execution as good as in Kubrick movies.
It's not even a case of critical dissonance because, no, critics and audiences alike were positive about this movie.
Oh, actually, I'm curious on that front. Let me check what the fans have to say about these on Rotten Tomatoes to get a general idea, unless we're trolling, but I'll try to before out.
From what I generally saw overall, they seem to definitely like the cat and mouse structure of the film, the dark elements of it, and how they work together to weave a twisted tale, that overall stuff. Yeah, I guess it's kind of obvious why Rotten Tomatoes doesn't put up a consensus spout for the audience's stuff, but sometimes I feel like it would be neat if they did. Uh-oh. So, for all he knows, he might very much be caught between a rock and an Anton place.
You know, I'll just say this for now. With all this build-up that they're trying, with all this build-up that they're trying to do, when the eventual confrontation between both of them starts, this better be fucking great.
Okay, I've got no I don't have any alcohol on hand tonight, but I have got sparkling flavored water.
I was actually tempting to give it a try, but nah, I'll just.
I don't think it's worth it.
Neither do I.
I don't even have whiskey, which would have been themed. I'll save it for Speed Riding 3. Don't worry, folks.
Oh, hey, I guess that's technically kind of a Western, so...
No, I cannot in all I cannot in all conscious...
So the Spirit franchise is going to be the Teo is drunk commentaries.
I cannot in all consciousness tolerate snips while sober. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I get you. I get you.
Dang. Anton called his bluff.
Come on, man! Just snap your fingers. It worked that other time, didn't it?
He doesn't have anything on his hands. If he employs the skills when learning captivity during Old Boy, but who am I kidding? That movie doesn't really show him getting.
Is this the secret origin story of Cable?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. He had a mustache.
Yeah,
but he needs to teach how to shave to his.
Yeah,
he actually got him.
He shaved it off.
I actually forgot.
And yes, I know that kind of contradicts what I said in the Deadpool commentary of Thanos realizing what he did was wrong and then had huge, extensive cosmetic and plastic surgery, but whatever.
No.
Get it? It's a parallel to the beginning of the movie because he did shot the horn dog, whatever the animal was called, and he was bleeding. Now he's the one. Get it?
See, let me put it this way: like when you watch Barry Lyndon and The Shining, the Kubrick version, I mean, like whenever there's slow tension build-up moments, there's also elaborate camera work and, like I said, tense music. And to me, those elements are very important in building tension, because if all you're going to do is just slow moving stuff with no music in it, I don't know, it just feels like, especially when it's
snap. Dang.
Yeah, especially when it's a scene like a chase scene, like he was just earlier running away from those guys, like, and right now we're about to get a car chase sequence type kind of
hit
right?
me.
So
hit me.
Yeah, so you'd think, hit me. So you'd think this would be a part where Carter Burwell puts up some kind. I'm not saying it has to be the full-blown orchestra. I mean, at least some kind of exciting chase music to, elevate the tension of this moment. I just don't really understand the decision of not having music at all. I understand Jova's point on that, but I don't know. I disagree. Even Barry Lyndon has music in it.
Well, again,
I think they could have reached a compromise by having a more low-key drumming.
Yeah.
So it could, it could actually please both sides.
In terms of films with Carter Burwell music in them, I got more tension out of the Goofy movie, and that was a movie where I couldn't even tell what parts were even from Burwell and what parts were from Don Davis.
In respect to this,
one thing that I do get, well, again, that I guess I'm getting a bit differently than Pedro, is instead the intimidating factor that Javier Bardem has. Like I said, it gives, does give the idea that every scene that he's in, that he can potentially kill you at any moment, that he's that dangerous and unrestrained, and you absolutely have no idea what to do or how to properly escape him. It kind of gives that kind of slasher killer vibe that I see in stuff like Michael Myers.
I do like the cat and mouse chases of this movie as well too. Like, again, you see differently how these two guys think, and how in that regard that will help him outthink Anton. But again, if he slips up for even so much as a iota, that's it for him, and Anton's going to tear him limb from limb, methodically, and, well, pretty much thoroughly.
Okay, sure, feel free to add your piece to me. Like, let me use a movie that came out. Okay, it didn't come out around this time. It came out like 6 years after this one, but it's still the same basic concept. Like, oh, sorry. Hold on, I lost my train of thought.
I'll go back to the music thing again. Like, as someone who's a fan of westerns, I've seen tons of westerns that go with pretty much almost no music throughout to set up the psalm tone. So again, I can absolutely get what they were going for in this regard. It's definitely a grounded and gritty aspect.
I swear that I did saw a movie that kind of did the same thing, but I can't remember what it was.
Like for example, like a movie that me and Sherry watched recently, which is Curse of Chucky. That movie does a great job in building up tension, in my opinion, not just because of the really good low-key tense music, but that movie actually bothers to get me to care about the characters and because they develop them and their relationships and shit. And I have yet to understand why I'm supposed to care about Llewellyn, to be honest
Hey,
with you.
we're in that scene from Terminator Genesis. Say
So-
Paramount.
Oh, I have this bit here. Check this out.
Go.
In a sense.
Here comes the money. Grand. What
Hey,
president is on
you gave
the
me 499.99. Where's that other cent?
What president is on the 500 bill, Jova?
I wish I had some. Beer,
I'm
too.
pretty sure he handed them 5 100s, but as for who's on the $500 bill,
So that scene was meant to tell us that he got both a coat and a beer.
this is
Gotcha.
probably also to set up for a future scene involving the coat, I assume.
Or the fact that he needs to, hide the fact that he is bleeding.
That too.
Honestly, considering that this guy so far he's just been stealing stuff the whole time, I'd have thought. Honestly, I think it would have been better off of him just stealing the coat while he wasn't looking or something.
I'm pretty sure this movie was a lot longer than this one, but I'm sure Only Yesterday had a very minimal score as well. Like,
Only Yesterday actually had plenty of music, Shiroi. It's just that, let me put it this way. It's more so that the quiet, character-driven, introspective moments don't have the music, but whenever there's a more exciting, perky moment, that's when the music kicks in.
I feel like there weren't many of those, though.
There weren't.
Possibly.
Would you say that it's more or less noticeable, I guess?
Yeah, it's one of those things, Shiroi, I will argue that when the music shows up, it definitely shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta need to patch up.
I will say though, like
Yeah.
a movie does not traditionally, yes, you expect a score from a movie, but that's not exactly something that's always needed, which is probably why I'm more okay with this in that
I
regard.
love
Because
it. The guy at the border is like, well, fuck off. Doesn't give a single shit.
Okay, I guess I just understood why there's I could make an immigration joke right now, but I'm not going
Again,
to.
I get the
Move on,
idea
Joe,
that's
bro.
why he decided to get the coat in order to not give suspicion to that.
And then we cut to him
Oh.
waking up.
See, guys,
in the
there
middle
is
of the
music.
street. And
Mariachis,
mariachi band, and of course.
those are in Mexico.
Bienvenidos a Mexico.
I just
So-
wanted to sleep, man.
I was sleeping.
Okay, that's a bull stopper.
Okay, Teo, question.
Yes, sir.
Shouldn't he have bleed to that by this point?
No, he's
I'm trying to think. Literal blood money. Cute. I'm trying to think. He was pierced where the liver is. Again, similar to what happened to Ellie in The Last of Us. Again, it's probably an escamotage when it comes to fiction. Like I said, the liver is the zone of your body, but it's the most abusable because it can regenerate even if it's lost, like let's say 50% of its mass. The important thing to remember is how much do you bleed, which is something that all the fictional media play fast and lose to continuously. So I don't really, if it is movie is to blame, so do a lot of other different medias.
I feel like they had him shot enough in the side that it'll hurt, but as long as
It's
he
also
sleeps
worth
on a certain
remembering that
side,
it
he
wasn't
won't
a
bleed out.
projectile. Remember, Javier Bardem's character uses a compressed air type of pistol, which means it was a clean hole inside him.
This does not please Anton. I wonder if this is
Well,
the
yeah,
first time his prey
he
has
fucked
ever.
up, huh?
I wonder if this is the first time his prey has ever
Mike's
escaped
lost
him.
pharmacy. Oh, is it about to make the car explode? Forgot.
I forget which trick he's doing.
Oh no, he's actually imbuing it with soaking it with I get it. I think he wants to use that as a makeshift disinfectant.
Probably.
Essentially,
You disinfect yourself.
No, yeah, by cauterization, I think. Or actually, no, it's just want to make the car explode. My bad.
Well, it's okay. It was a combination of him using it for disinfectant and then getting rid of
Oh,
the
no, I
car
get it.
because
He's
of the
like,
evidence.
oh, my car exploded. I need something.
Yep.
Or just taking things in the confusion. Okay. I guess it is a good time to start mentioning. Alright, this one, Best Picture. It's competition where Atonement, I never heard of it. Michael Clayton.
Never heard of
Alright.
that.
Okay,
I want
I'll
to
mention
make-
later.
I want to make a comment about this scene. Okay, so like we saw, Anton also got injured in the fight, so now he's trying to clean his wound and take care and treat it. Okay, cool. Again, you'd think he would just be a brief little 10-second bit where we see him like a little quick montage, but no, we see him cut the clothes. Now he puts himself in the tub. We see him in the tub. It's just like, is this really important? Do we really need to see all of this?
It is to show, again, how methodical he is with this or that. Again, for this type of movie, I get why they're doing it.
I feel like the lengths he'll go to like do all this.
Pretty much,
honestly,
yeah.
I just find this pointless. Can we maybe develop the character, give him some kind of backstory via flashback, something interesting? I don't care about watching him treat his wound.
People like this don't really need a backstory, though. That's the thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to agree with Shiroi. I don't think Anton really needs that much of a backstory. Like, he's a sociopathic killer who we see methodical in that sense here. Again, he is incredibly messed up in the head, and a villain does not always need some grand scoping reason for why they are a villain.
That's the entire appeal of
it. Okay, cool. Can we just not watch him? I don't care about watching him treat his wound. That's not important to the story.
Well, again, I feel like again, I'm gonna have to agree with Shuri. It's to show the lengths and methods he'll go to in that regard.
I think
again,
I'll counter it.
There are ways of doing that.
I think
we've already seen him.
Hold on. Let me finish, Dwibs. Again, I feel like for this movie it works. Like, I have not yet seen a scene that actually does feel like it's wasting time, if I'm to be honest.
Alright, I think we're about to get the meme.
Oh, yes!
Also, I think it would have worked potentially, again, as another compromise, still show it, but edit it, edit away a bit the degrees, so you still see it technically, but each individual moment is not stretched too much.
That's fair.
Let me ask you a question, Shirei.
Yeah.
If Anton killed Llewellyn, would you feel sad for Llewellyn?
I mean, I don't understand what that has to. Like, the answer to the question is no, but also I don't understand what that has to do with the character we were actually talking about.
I'm trying to make my point. Like, if you don't fear for the Llewellyn's life, then to me the movie is a failure because I need to care about these things.
I do not agree.
But that wasn't what we were talking about, which is why I'm confused.
Well, I'm trying to make a point of that on how I think shouldn't the movie be trying to make us care for the characters? Like movies usually do.
Not necessarily, honestly. Like, again,
I care more about the object we're transporting. Technically speaking, there are more, methods of that. Is in where does that, what's the term, suitcase eventually ends up being?
It's like
what person manages to outsmart the other.
It's kind of like Pulp Fiction in that regard.
Well, to throw in my own perspective, so far, in response to the question, I'm not really feeling anything.
Also, just because I might not feel sorry feel sad for a character
hold on.
dead,
Let's you finish, Dwibs.
Just because I don't feel sorry for, if a person, dies, doesn't mean that I actually can get afraid of the fact that their lives in danger.
Same for me, honestly. Like, again, this is about
I like to empathize with
otherwise, I shouldn't feel sorry for almost 80% of the kills in a slasher movie. And yes, I know that those involve annoying teenagers, but there are other people involved, like, say, for example, cops, for example. And I still am afraid if Jason Horris gets to manage to outsmart them, especially if another character, is close by.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not even necessarily looking for wanting to empathize or anything. Because in the case of this movie, I don't think it's asking me for empathy because the main character's a thief, the guy chasing him is a psychopath, and the rest are
Law enforcers.
the rest exist.
Law enforcers.
Yeah, exactly. That's my problem. They just exist.
Pretty much what Wib said about the leads, but go on.
I would hope to feel at least something, anything, feel tension for how the situation with the money's going, or at least feel scared of Anton, or hope that the law enforcers solve everything. But I don't feel anything because the performances are half the performances are really. It sounds like they're drawling their lines or bored because of the. I mean, I've seen things with a lack of music in them, and they're more tense than this.
I'm gonna have to agree with Tio and Shiroi. I get the tension relatively just fine. I don't need to know all these characters' backstory or life story. I feel like the movie is giving us enough. The scenes in and of themselves are tense and whatnot. Josh Brolin's character is not like some big main hero or something. He feels more like a catalyst character to the plot or whatnot. The one who gets a lot of this stuff kicked off here. Now, again, the movie is not saying for you how to feel in this regard. A lot of this is, in its case, left up to you, because again, it comes down to the morality here. Is Josh Brolin's character truly terrible? Like, sure, he found the money, but that was like money found on, like, a graveyard, essentially. It wasn't like he was actively stealing it as far as, he knew from the living. And he did try to return the money when he did feel bad about it, but him trying to do what seemed like a good deed and like, simple black and white morality landed him into a lot of trouble like this. Anton, as we've mentioned, is a character who deals with how, as far as he sees it, morality be damned, essentially. It is this way or that way, and he wants things to go his way, or, shall we say, the forces that nature as they do declare it in that regard. Meanwhile, the cops here are guys who definitely are trying to do things, but as Tommy Lee Jones has mentioned, things definitely are not as simple as they used to be. In a sense, it ain't a country for old men.
I don't know. All I'm seeing is a bunch of bored-looking schmucks directed by two people who feel like, we can make anything. We can make like the most boring film on the planet, and people will hail us as geniuses.
Yeah, This is the people who made Burn After Reading, one of the most witty and cleverly written movies.
Well,
I've seen Fargo.
Didn't they do it after this, though, Pedro?
I've seen Fargo. That came before
this
one.
That is true, but I fail to realize how that's relevant to my point.
For all we know, maybe they actually, add some internal thoughts like you might have suggested.
Well, I brought up an example of a film that came out before this. I've seen Fargo from them.
Whatever. Go on.
Tio does have a point in that regard, but no, I do not get that feeling.
If that would be your logic, they would have just done this type of movie constantly after this. But no, they kind of came back to their old style.
Again, and honestly,
I'm grateful for that.
Honestly, I feel like they legit had a good idea here, and for the most part, it seems like it worked, honestly.
Well, mind you, Jova, what I'm willing to understand this movie, I can kind of understand that it's really not my thing overall, and I really would have not, actively hunted down if it wasn't for, for example, in this case, for actually getting it done properly.
Oh, yes, I can absolutely get that. To me, it feels kind of like a Stanley Kubrick film in that regard. If you are into that sort of stuff, this is a godsend. Well, maybe not a godsend, but it is something that works for you. But if you're not into that particular style, this movie's not going to work for you. Not in the sense that the movie itself is bad, but it's definitely about where that sort of filmmaking just does not click with someone as well as another different type does.
You say that, Joe, but one of the biggest Kubrick fans you'll find.
Well, because it's not the same thing.
Yeah, they are not the same thing.
It has the same thought process. No, okay. I get what he means, that it's the same thought process, just applicable to two different styles.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, again, it's a similar thought process, but no, that does not mean that a Kubrick fan will immediately like this, or a No Country for Old Men will immediately like a Kubrick film in that regard. Again, my point is Kubrick films were also very split in their release schedule here and there, Again, if you really liked and got them, you got into them, but if you did not like them, people were very vocal about their dislike of some of his films, some of which did get more recognition better with age in that regard. This film, again, feels like it is geared to a very specific niche, and that niche, it does work in that regard.
There's also the fact that, similar to Gone Girl, not many people these days talk about him, but I have to admit, I would be interested to hear if there is a potential, critical reevaluation, in this case, potentially in a more, lesser positive one, potentially, just in a case to hear someone potentially talk about this more.
I
don't know about...
Oh, go on, sorry.
I don't know about, talking about it as far as video essay type of things, but I do actually hear this movie being brought up every so often, so people do at least remember it and talk about it, but I don't know what the general consensus is of it these days.
I definitely do hear
it's a cinematic masterpiece.
The reviews that I noticed on Rotten Tomatoes seems to be mostly gearing on the same thing. They appreciate what they mentioned, that they appreciate the grit and the tension that the movie provides. Most of the comment the most common comment that I found is that they mentioned that Anton haunts their dreams. It doesn't do for me because Gomorrah has taken that place a long time ago, but I guess I can understand.
It's amazing. For as bad as modern fears can get, sometimes nothing beats a childhood trauma.
Fucking wolves. I would say, however, this because I kind of found it funny in his execution. Hey, Woody Harrelson spends most of his movies sitting on a chair and talking to someone.
They're all interviews.
Beautiful. Interviews with Anton. Wait a minute. Come to think of it. Hold on, let me check something. How fitting is it that two films in 2007 had a major antagonist by the name of Anton?
Let me also bring up another point. Okay, so the movie's trying to do this thing where, like Tommy Lee Jones said at the beginning of the movie, that, back in his day, lawmen didn't even wear a gun and blah, blah, blah. And you can understand how the crimes that are going on today are so mind-boggling to him, blah, blah, blah. And stuff titled No Country for Old Men. Thing is, I have yet to see the movie make an interesting commentary and explore that topic in any meaningful way. Okay, how about you actually, discuss this topic more thoroughly? Because the characters are not talking about that.
That I understand, and my guess on that, Pedro, is because similar to a problem that some people noted with Shyamalan's most recent movie, Knock at the Cabin.
Also, that phone is what gave this movie the best sound mixing award.
You're supposed to at least let someone answer the phone.
Yes, Anton, take your time. Yes,
I don't want to extend my car warranty.
Phone, you idiot! Jesus Christ.
He likes to take things slow, Just...
Well, the whole movie's been taking things slow. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's my problem. Not everything needs to be a fucking slog.
I'll agree that some things could have been sped up, but again, I don't feel like there's
I was about to mention, again, God, sorry. My bad, go on.
I do not feel like there's been a scene that's actively wasted our time. Do I agree with Tio that, yes, some things could have been maybe trimmed up here and there? Sure, but not to the point where it feels like time was wasted like with Gone Girl.
Okay, now I remember. Okay. I think what your last point, Pedro, could be exactly explained with this similar problem that Shyamalan's most recent movie, Knock at the Cabin, has. This is actually based on a short story. And apparently, a thing that I think consistent about it is that a lot of short stories, when it came to adapting them on a big screen, had to be stretched because the source material is just that short, beyond belief.
But hold on, No Country for Old Men is a full-blown novel too. It's not a short.
All right, so
pretty sure it is a novel.
Well, I'd say protagonist, but I'm not really sure. So yeah, the Brolin and Javier Bardem's characters are about to are calling to set up a meeting about well, at least getting the money handed over, and then well, at least Bardem's character thinks Brolins is going to be meeting.
I can tell you this, Dweebs. I don't know how much is technically relevant for the purpose of assigning the roles of a movie, but according to the Oscars, the movie is considered to have its main character being Tommy Lee Jones, while Javier Bardem is supporting actor. And there's our meme panel.
So I was right. Tommy Lee Jones is the main hero in that regard, which honestly does make more sense.
Although I do agree with Pedro, but it doesn't really feel like a central figure. I know that the movie is supposed to be rotating around this triumvirate, but I do understand that Tommy Lee Jones out of the three of them is the one that does the least.
Yeah, I forgot that most of the movie we just follow Llewellyn. Like, so it that sounds weird. Like,
I think what it is like, well, it feels like the focus is on Llewellyn, but it's more so that Llewellyn is just the guy who's at the front of the chase, essentially.
Also,
hold on, give me just a moment. Right. Also, there you go, too. The No Country for Old Men has 320 pages. I hardly call this a short story.
Sure.
Anyway, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have a meme reaction.
Tommy Lee Jones right now sounds like my grandfather when he was just reading the newspaper.
How old was he when this movie came out? Let me see.
That should be a review quote. Tommy Lee Jones sounds like my grandfather.
I want Tommy Lee Jones to tell me bedtime stories.
My name's Tommy Lee Jones, and
he was born in 1946.
Star.
So I was 71. No, he was 61.
I was about to say, 71? Nah.
Sorry, I know that it feels like I've actually drunk alcohol, but I haven't.
Nah. Tommy Lee Jones...
It's just an unfortunate case where the actor still looked older even when he really wasn't. Like, you have to remember, the Men in Black first movie came out in the 90s, in the middle of the 90s, where he was around 50, and yet he still looked like he was in his 70s.
So he's kind of like the anti-Tom Cruise in that regard?
Like a branch of Holly Tree, I guess.
So now things... Brolins has crossed back into the border wearing that,
and he needs to get closer.
It looks like he escaped from a mental. It looks like he escaped from a mental hospital.
I honestly thought he was cosplaying as Jesus.
The dude, the dude. While the dude has a similar attire, not exactly the same.
Spiffy.
Well, hey, he retrieved the money. So there's that. Discombobulate. Good as new.
Go to the go in the Pokeball and go to the Pokemon Center. You'll be.
Remember, Dweebs, there's apparently, again, at least when the games are concerned, Dweebs, there is no actual healthcare for human beings.
But then again, this is 1980, so, yeah. Whereabouts exactly? I definitely have breast cancer.
Knock, knock. Do we have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior?
Also, mate, you could just steal a key.
Hi. Ken, this is so inconsiderate. At least say hello.
Hello.
You want to answer that?
Hello, Mr. Nobody from accounting.
I mean, you're literally asking, I guess. uh,
Okay.
Okay, I guess that's it for that scene.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Sometimes scenes either go on, scenes either drag too long or just end.
Let me check who was the editor in this. I know that again, we just might add, orders from the Coens, but I'm still curious. Roderick Jane is, which did a regular for the Coen Brothers. All right. Actually, no. Apparently, it's their pseudonym, so they themselves edited the movie. Okay.
Huh. Weird to use a pseudonym for that.
No idea either.
And so you
Like, is there some union rule saying you can't credit yourself multiple? People have done that many times.
Tell
Yeah,
that,
Charlie Chaplin did that
Strips. Tell that to Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, I was going to say,
And,
maybe that several times.
Also, Neil Breen, I guess.
Yeah, that and Charlie Chaplin, who did directing, writing, editing,
remember-
and music.
And remember, at this point, they cannot even use the name Alan Smithy anymore because of what happened with an Alan Smithy movie, Burn, Hollywood Burn.
Wait. You're saying that filmmakers can't ever use the Alan Smithy moniker
No,
after?
because that movie made it, was constructed and made it so that the actual higher ups in Hollywood thought that it would have, disrupt and make it unbelievable anymore, the usage. So they officially dropped it, the possibility to use it after that.
Let me check and see.
I don't remember what the exact details are, but you can find them.
Okay, the last film that has used the Alan Smithy moniker was a movie in 2015 called Old 37, directed by Christian Winters.
Hi.
So, I don't know if it might still possibly be a thing. Although, you know what I love? The irony about the Alan Smithy movie? Yeah, the director hated making that movie so much that was also a movie that went on to be directed by Alan Smithy.
Yeah, by the way, one
cur-
thing that I would like to...
I'm curious, has anyone here seen an Alan Smithy movie?
I know, and after the reviews that I seen, I don't really have much interest.
No.
in it.
Okay. Let me reiterate. When I say an Alan Smithy movie, I don't mean the movie called an Alan Smithy movie film, Burn, Hollywood Burn. But have you seen any of the
I'm
movies?
pretty sure I have accidentally, but yes, Pedro.
Okay, so keep in mind, I haven't read the novel. This is based on what I've heard about online.
Yeah, I haven't
Right.
checked any adaptation differences either.
Yes. That being said, I actually have heard some fans of the book mention that while the movie, what is in the movie is basically a page-by-page dictation of the novel, the Coen Brothers apparently did leave out some stuff from the book.
Such as?
Apparently, keep in mind this is just based on what I've heard.
Okay.
Apparently, the book had more character-driven scenes that basically there was more character interaction in the book. That's the basic point that I'm trying to make. Apparently, so I have heard some people over the years, book fans specifically, complain that there were some more character-driven moments in the novel that gave us more insight into the characters that were not included in this adaptation. It seems.
Oh,
I can't
So,
judge
it's
this movie.
interesting.
Yeah, as someone who's not read the book,
Fade to Black.
I cannot judge this as an adaptation.
Sure.
So, and honestly, what's funny?
oh, Jova, we're at that point. I remember that.
All right, it's time, Jova. All this build-up, and now we're going to finally see the big confrontation between our free leads.
You could say that.
Uh-oh.
Or maybe not.
Well, damn.
Yep, Llewellyn gets killed off-screen
By a third party.
by a third party. Not even Anton, a third party.
And mind you, the
Yeah.
movie is not over yet. The rest of the movie is about, Anton and Tony Jones' character.
There is still the matter of the money.
There is. But my problem is that, so let me get this straight. You've been building up this cat and mouse game between Anton and Llewellyn, and the big payoff for all this build-up is he randomly gets killed off-screen by someone that's not even relevant.
Alright, let's see if I can make heads or tails of this. I think what they're trying to go for is, again, like Tommy Lee Jones's character is mentioned, like, it used to be that things were simple, good guy defeats bad guy, bad guy gets taken away. But in this regard here, this would be about that would make some people think, what was the purpose of this? Like, have things really gotten this demented and crazy here or there? Now, I never particularly saw Llewellyn as, like, the actual main protagonist of Assume. I saw him as the catalyst. He was a guy who definitely got in over his head and is paying the dues for it, but in turn also, this does really make one question, like, is it truly right that he gets done in like this, or is this just about a laser-guided karma? Was he actually meant to die by Anton's hand, and is this just fate catching up with him? I will say this, though. I can definitely get why, if you're expecting a showdown between Llewellyn and Anton, yes, this can definitely be disappointing, but I do understand the purpose here, and I feel like it's performed well enough that I'm not utterly disappointed by it. I get the purpose for it. That being said, I'm definitely, okay, this is definitely a bit where I can see how you will either like this development, or this development is definitely going to disappoint you, and I definitely won't. Well, okay, I will say this. While I do see the purpose of it, I absolutely understand if you don't like this development here or there.
Put it this way. Imagine if in like a season of Dragon Ball or something, they spend the whole arc setting up a big fight between Goku and
Frieza.
Frieza. But then just before you'd expect it to happen, like it cuts to something, and then when the next time we see Goku, he's just randomly been killed by
Broly.
You
by a squirrel or something.
you really wouldn't like the final arc of Yu Yu Hakusho, trust me.
You'd be surprised, but go on to you.
To mention what Jova, one, I can understand what he has said, and I can understand what the movie is gore. The movie is for. I can definitely tell that it's not for me, because if there's one thing that I've become a bit idiosyncratic over the years is the purpose, not removal, but the purpose withdrawal of catharsis. I understand that a point of not this movie, but other media as well, was to teach lessons about without actually having good catharsis. For example, revenge is pointless, or sometimes someone's martyred where you will get the prey instead of you or anything. And again, this is what I think what the movie is trying to go for with this in mind is the idea that like what Jova said, the world has become in such a chaotic state that something that feels like he would be in a traditional Western novel. In this case,
Sure.
the hero and the villain, facing down each other. Instead, the results meaningless. But and this is a big but. It's still, I argue, it's still kind of infuriating because as a moviegoer, at least the average, I can imagine it's not for everyone, but at least for the vast majority of moviegoers, would actually want to feel at least a bit of excitement of the direct confrontation, and instead something like this makes them feel robbed about it.
Yeah, that's exactly my thing. Because up until this point, the movie has been building up this cat and mouse chase element where, oh my god, is Llewellyn gonna get is Anton gonna get Llewellyn? Oh my god, how? And Llewellyn, of course, has these moments where he's standing off with a gun just in case Anton shows up. So the movie keeps building this up and up and up. I personally, so you made me sit through him cleaning his wound. You made me sit through that discussion with the receptionist lady as supposedly tension building, right? Okay, so what is this all building up to? He gets randomly killed. The two adversary characters don't even properly confront each other in a more meaningful way. Yes, there was that little bit where they shot each other. Yes, I get that. But come on, are you serious? This is all that we've been building up to? Are you shitting me? I sat through this entire movie for this.
Also, Llewellyn and Tommy Lee Jones never interact.
I'm sorry,
in the movie.
I'm sorry. If you were not going to have a confrontation, why even bother? Why not just get to? Why not just have Llewellyn die at the beginning of the movie then? If you're not by that, it makes about as much sense as anything.
Again, I credit Llewellyn as the catalyst to this, but I will say this. If I were making this movie and had to make it relatively similar, and yeah, he flipped heads, so that's why he chose not to try and kill the cop. But
transition.
That being said, here's what I would have done, though. What I would have done for starters is emphasize much more Tommy Lee Jones as the main protagonist, to at least make it not as disappointing when Llewellyn dies.
Oh, that's a lot of cats.
Because, even though I was right that Tommy Lee Jones is the main protagonist, I would not blame anyone for thinking that Llewellyn is the main protagonist instead.
Yeah.
Me personally, I do believe it's a movie that's balanced by our three main leads, but the emphasis was a lot on Llewellyn to the point where I would not discredit for somebody for getting that feeling. I feel like if they emphasized better that Tommy Lee Jones was the main protagonist, there probably would not be as much disappointment here, because in that regard, it would be people going about of okay, the main show has yet to truly begin. Sure, sadly Llewellyn was dead, but he was mainly a catalyst. And that is technically what happened here. But again, he is emphasized arguably more than Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones feels like what TV tropes would call a pinball protagonist. He's kind of a protagonist who kind of just bounces around each scene, kind of observing what's going on until eventually he needs to take the big rise for the big showdown or whatnot. Again, this sort of character can work, and again, I feel like he technically does, because he's witnessing how crapsack and how crazy the world has gotten. But again, I do feel like what the movie could have at least done better was emphasize him as the main protagonist.
Hold on. Yes, Pedro?
Should we need a recap?
Yes, I was going to ask when you were done. Can I have a recap?
Shiro, here's what happened. You know how we've been building up until this point the confrontation between Llewellyn and Anton? Guess what? Llewellyn gets killed off screen by random people that we don't even see.
That explains Dwibbs' sighing.
Yeah. So, my point
basically,
just to recap my basic point from that while you were gone, Shiro. My basic point is here is that but let me get this straight. You made me watch all this build up. And I don't even get to see anything even remotely satisfying as a conclusion. He just dies off screen. Not even from Anton, from somebody random. Go on.
My counterpoint, Shuri, was essentially that this plays into the theme of how, as Tommy Lee Jones has pointed out, the world is becoming, extremely chaotic in that regard. What used to be just a simple bout of good guy catches bad guy, takes bad guy away, has devolved into a mess where even someone as important as Llewellyn can be just taken out like that. Now, as was established by the Academy Awards, Tommy Lee Jones is the actual main protagonist, so Llewellyn was definitely more of a catalyst. I will say this. I get the reasons why the movie did it, and I'm fine with it. But I also do understand why, if someone was anticipating a big showdown between the two, I can get why they're disappointed by it. Personally, what I would have done was emphasize more so Tommy Lee Jones's main status as the main protagonist, so that at least the sting of Llewellyn dying wouldn't feel as bad in that regard.
Go on, Shuri.
I do agree with Jova, but I also still think that the death probably should have happened on screen.
Yeah, that too.
Not just then, and to address something that you said, Jova. Okay, how about this? Even if I'm going to accept that. Okay, so Tommy Lee Jones is the main character. Okay, fine. That being said, you can't. Llewellyn is still an important character.
He is. He is. Like I said,
so, which means, so considering this is an important character to the whole proceedings, he's the one Anton is after, for fuck's sake. Wouldn't it make more sense to, at the very least, see him die on? They couldn't even bother to show how he gets killed.
I will.
It'd be like if in a Bond movie, let's take Goldfinger for example. It'd be like if instead of Bond and Goldfinger having that big fight on the plane and that results in Goldfinger getting sucked out of it, it'd be like if Bond gets on the plane and then just sees Goldfinger's dead body in there for no reason.
Okay, to be fair, again, while Llewellyn was an important character, he wasn't like the main antagonist or main protagonist like Bond and Goldfinger are, so it's not quite that equivalent.
I think a better comparison would be to compare it to a movie that does something similar to this, although it's presented as a more of an anthology, Pulp Fiction. Because that one too is about a bunch of people chasing after
money,
suitcase. We don't know what's in the suitcase, Jova. It just shines. A bunch of a suitcase. We follow different points of view, and some characters, if I recall correctly, do get killed right off screen or something. Also, the mother died too. Damn. But I guess so. I do wonder what would be the potential difference in that. Maybe because there are more characters in that, maybe because each of them is technically more fleshed, maybe because it wants to tell a more a traditional pulp story instead of a dried up gritty new western. I don't know.
I can tell you what I prefer in Pulp Fiction over this: the far more interesting and entertaining characters. We have Samuel L. Jackson playing a badass motherfucker. That one fact alone makes the movie better than this one in my eyes.
That is true, but many people forget that's kind of basically just the beginning of a movie, and most of it it's not even.
Oh, sure. No, but I also like John Travolta's character. I like Uma Thurman. I like all the characters. Like I said, Quentin Tarantino is great at writing character dialogue. Like, for example, which is honestly something I think this movie could have benefited for, a more Tarantino-esque dialogue to make the characters seem more entertaining to me.
But if I recall correctly, in this case, the final confrontation happens between Josh Brolin's character and Anton, character's daughter and Anton.
One of these days, I have to pick Django Unchained for comment there, since that's my favorite Tarantino movie.
I have been meaning to see that movie because it sounds pretty awesome, especially with
trust me, Dova, it is.
Especially
next year's February, maybe.
Especially since I have heard rumors that they are trying to make a sequel to it that would essentially be a crossover with Zorro, like in the comics, and they're trying to get Antonio Banderas for it, and I'm like, that sounds like it promises to be absolutely awesome.
I put it this way, Jova, like, the whole Leo finally got an Oscar in 2015 thing?
Yeah.
The fact that he didn't win anything for his performance in that movie, Django Unchained, is to me absolute criminal. Like,
I've definitely heard universal praise for his performance in that movie.
Like, there's a scene in that movie where DiCaprio's having a mad racist rant. Keep in mind, he's the villain. So
yes,
he's having a big mad racist rant, and DiCaprio is absolutely mind-blowing in that scene.
Everyone knows the fact that he actually accidentally shattered the glass and he still continued his performance.
Oh, no, that was...
Also, fun fact, apparently, before he really got into that, apparently Leonardo DiCaprio was having trouble saying some of the stuff, so then Jamie Foxx basically said, dude, you're the bad guy,
Don't sugarcoat
We're
it,
not
they said.
friends, essentially.
And Samuel Jackson told to him, "This is just another Tuesday."
No, Samuel L. Jackson's actually really cool about that kind of stuff in general. So.
But anyway, yeah, one
It's
last
context.
One thing
what's
I-
funny?
So
Sorry.
here we apparently do have a payoff where Anton has been getting a lot of resistance. Not only from, like, Josh Brolin's character, but now from this character. It's like, no,
His
I'm
daughter.
not playing your games, essentially. Which, to Anton, would probably shatter his entire worldview on that.
I mean,
Whoa!
Oh.
I actually forgot about this.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
it seems like what gets Anton is, again, ironically, not our, designated good guy of the film, but
But
literally just
wrong
an act of
person.
God.
Okay,
Well, it's on screen this time.
I just don't get this idea of having this thing where we constantly have this cat and mouse chase with three characters, since only one of them is the main one apparently. And what does these people in is random bouts of violence from random people that have nothing to do with the story. I just don't understand what's the
kinda get-
appeal of this.
okay,
it's so
to-
unsatisfying to
to
me.
make a comparison, this is like playing a David Cage game and getting early endings for bad decisions.
Oh, good lord, no.
Hold on, I want to make a joke about this scene.
That's a bone. No shit.
Hold on, Tim, I like this bit here.
But that's the thing, if an ambulance gets him, then the police will get him, and... Well, yeah, it seems like he's screwed.
Again, this.
Oh, I get it. He's brought
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Javier Bardem just told a young boy to take his shirt off.
Well,
To patch
he
up the
just
wound.
needs
I
it.
know, I'm just joshing.
But no, Josh Brolin died, Pedro.
I just think it's. Imagine if I presented to you this scene out of context.
No context for Country for Old Men.
So...
No context for old men.
Yes.
No context for
No
all.
Although I
cont-
think it's kind of fun. Well, is it potentially a meaning of the title? The title is No Country for Old Men, but the major people who died are relatively young.
There you go.
I guess
ladies and
so.
gentlemen. There you go, Teo. That's his treatment for his broken arm. Just wrap a shirt around it.
That's I'm gonna pretend I haven't seen that.
So I guess the implication is like, well, again, he is pretty much screwed in that regard, because he can't go to a hospital, and a bone, yeah, he's had injuries before, but nothing like a bone that pokes out, so that is
There he
ironically
goes,
what does him in.
And then the
So
kid
here-
goes back over and he's like, excuse me, son,
And
why
that's
is
it.
your shirt off?
And
I
that's
guess
it.
this is
That's
the
the
last
last we
scene.
see of. That's the last we see of Anton.
So the only one left remaining is the old guy, like Tia
Like,
said.
we don't even know if he dies or not. He just goes away.
Okay.
Like in the wind.
Again, going off of what limited medical knowledge I have, unless he actually goes to a hospital, which, again, he can't afford to because the police would get him, he's pretty much a goner.
Okay, I can tell you this, even if a wound like that gets infected, it will still create problems on the long run, not to mention the potential. Again, there are plenty of possibilities for him to die no matter what he does, so I can understand what Joe is saying.
I wouldn't put it like
I
this.
just wish I could see it.
I would put it like this. Even if he doesn't die, his injury has made it that he will not be
think,
able to... He probably will not be doing his job for the rest of his life.
I think the best summarization of this movie and this entire, back and forward that we had with each other can be essentially compressed, like the air. In the movie, deliberately wants to create a story where there is no satisfaction and want to showcase how the world kind of sucks because of that. But because of this same factor, a casual person who actually want to see the movie and desire this type of story in a more conventional way will be not only inevitably disappointed but pissed off because of these elements.
I also feel like
that argument. Go on.
I also feel like, ironically, in a sense, I do get a better sense of satisfaction from this movie than I did with Gone Girl, because even though it wasn't in the traditional sense, the bad guy was still stopped, in a sense. Done in by the very thing that he valued, the whole randomness or judgment of just natural life in that regard. Now, in regards to Llewellyn, I definitely agree. Yes, I get that they wanted his death to be very abrupt and catch you off guard, but I feel like we could have still had that by at least having the guys with the guns stumble upon the motel and kill him in a shootout as well, too. That could have been on screen.
I mean, the Coen Brothers have proven with True Grit that they can direct shootout scenes, so it's not like it's something beyond their skill level.
Pedro, we've literally seen in this movie that they can do shootout scenes too.
Well, sure.
That's how it ends.
That's how it ends. He just ends with
no
Tommy Lee Jones once
scene,
again rambling.
So Anton will not be invited to the Sonic initiative.
See, let me follow up on Teo's point real quick. That's the thing. I would be okay, Teo, with the theme of terribleness and emptiness of how terrible the world is would be if the movie would make some interesting point about that. Instead, all the movie does is have Tommy Lee Jones talk about how things suck now. And how they didn't suck back when he was young. And I'm just like, okay, can you make some kind of interesting examination about that topic? And why is that is the case? Because all they do is complain about how back in my day, things were better.
I feel like with the movie...
What I definitely want to know is what specifically was cut from the book, because if those interactions that is mentioned, were cut away, for example, stuff involving Tommy Lee Jones' character, that would kind of reinforce what Jova said, that Tommy Lee Jones, again, as intended by the movie, is supposed to be the main character. But I don't know, and I need to think about it. Libs, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to be completely honest. I think Jova was watching a completely different movie than what I was watching. I thought this movie's just a drag from beginning to end. It's not even, no, it's not because of the lack of music. I have seen movies with very minimal or no score in it, and they were more exciting than this one. And no, it's not just because of the way the characters talk, although that doesn't help. It's to me, it's just not very interesting. It's just a bunch of bored-looking people talking about how much their life sucks. Be more concerned about one suitcase full of money, and another one is. Well, I'll be honest, one of the more boring psychopath characters I've ever seen. And that's bad when you make a psychopath boring. I've seen more fun psychopaths in movies. The story, again, it's just nothing really.
But Dwebs, things were much better back when we were young.
Okay.
Yeah, and also there's the repetition, not just Tommy Lee Jones bagging on about how things were better back in my day, but also the weird way the characters just keep repeating the thing they said earlier, even though they didn't get an answer the first time. What makes you think you'll get it a second time? They're not interested in answering your question, mates.
That's showing that Anton is, again, in that sociopathic mindset. But definitely not right in the head.
Other characters have done that though, not just Anton.
Not really. What is it to you?
No, I'll mention it during my final thoughts because I just discovered something. Continue, Dwebs.
What little music there is, I gotta say, this is hands down the greatest paycheck Carter Burwell must have gotten in his life. He can get paid his usual money, I'm guessing, without doing much of anything. And what score there is just the. It's just there. It's not nothing exciting. Even it's not even. It doesn't really help the scene. Even when it isn't there. When it is there, it doesn't do anything. Any other points?
I can't
No,
really think of
no,
any.
no.
Okay, no. I think I forgot if you mentioned it in commentary or off Dwebs, but I remember you mentioning that you weren't convinced about the period piece of the movie being in 1980. After seeing the movie, what do you think on that?
Tio, I'll put it this way. Before we started, I forgot. I had no clue what the year was. So while I was watching the movie, I still had no clue what year it was. I only found out what year it was when I looked it up online.
I don't feel like the movie's really anachronistic in that regard. Like, it
I
seems like it could be went over.
Better.
Yeah, like that thing that could have happened in like a decade from 1980, or even 2 decades.
Payphones
But that's
were
just
still...
but that's just more potatoes, really. That's my main gripe. What this film's trying to do, well, everything. Its plot, its tone, its characters. I've seen that done way more interestingly in other movies. Hell, I've seen Fargo. The Cohen Brothers have done this kind of thing better. A psychopathic killer is on the loose. The only other difference is there's more music in it, and it's in a snow setting, not a Texas town setting.
Which is your favorite setting, Dwebs?
Wait.
Snow's more interesting than sound.
Remember, this isn't like desert settings, so.
Huh.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and the other points that, and I think and as for anything else, I've already made my points earlier on when we were watching the movie. So and also how much a sucker I am for first impressions. This was the first movie I saw from the Cohen Brothers.
Well, you know what Merlin said in Sword in the Stone can only get up from here.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the thing, though. It all depends on it's different, obviously, for people going into something. But from my perspective, hearing how much cinematic geniuses the Coen brothers are, and then I watch this, I'm like, okay, so when does the brilliance start?
Well, try to consult also with someone who actually, if you know anyone who actually has more experience with them, try to consult and exchange opinion with them. I guess that could help.
Yeah, like, I'll admit, this was actually my first impression with the Coen brothers as well, and I was not disappointed. I get how it is definitely unorthodox, but again, for the people who are into this sort of films, I definitely see how this would have hit every note with them for it.
Oh, I've seen Eyes Wide Shut. That's an unorthodox movie.
Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut in my opinion, it does a much better job of the tension building. Because you know what, the tense music in that movie, by the way, is really great. By the way,
And you also saw 2001: A Space Odyssey. How did you like that?
I wasn't a big fan of it.
No, this is not a fan of it. Anything else, Libs? Before we move on to Shiroi?
No, not really. In terms, so there we are, folks. In terms of the, I won't necessarily call it a divide, more like a difference in opinion. On that spectrum, I'm on the side of I don't get it. I'm sorry.
All right,
Shiroi.
You're next.
All right. Well, I don't remember okay, I was nowhere near as bored as I was the first time I watched this because I remember just being completely out of it when we first tried to watch this movie. But I think I had a much better time now. I wouldn't say I liked it all that much, but I think this is one of those movies you either get it or you don't, and it's not for me. Like this kind of thing is not for me. But I can see why other people would enjoy it. I don't mind the minimal score, honestly. I didn't think the movie really lacked anything for not having music.
Apologies if we asked you already because I might have forgotten. Do you
Yeah.
actually have experience with the other movies that the Coen Brothers did?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Aside from the killing off screen, I was actually fine with them dying in different ways because this is kind of a, yeah, life just be like that kind of movie, you know? What else?
The acting.
That's the thing. Like, Anna Green Gables is also about the whole life is just like this thing, but that has actual messages and meaning and shit.
I think because also that one tries to be more uplifting, even in the more harsher situations, while this instead tends to be excessively cynical.
Yeah, there's a lot of whimsy in Anne that just wouldn't work here.
To Gonger, these two as the trope too bleak stop caring land onto it.
Yeah, this didn't annoy me like Gone Girl did.
Oh yeah, no. I mean,
in that regard, I did not like that at all. Yeah.
If I may, could it possibly be that, again, as unorthodox as it is, the guilty parties did pretty much get their punishment in this film, which at least probably worked better out than with Gone Girl, where the main bad guy gets away with it scot-free, essentially.
Although at least for discussion, I kind of blink and I actually don't remember who actually got the money. I guess the Mexicans who killed Josh Brolin.
I guess.
Did anyone get the money?
Yeah, this whole thing has been about the money, and we don't even know where the money ended up.
For all we know, they did mention in the final dialogues that Tommy Lee Jones had, and we did not pay attention.
That is possible too, yeah.
I do think the movie did drag a little bit, though. It was fine at first, much like Gone Girl, actually, but then after, yeah, again, pretty much the same. After about an hour, it's like, okay, could you hurry it along just a little bit? I don't think most of the scenes actually were that lengthy either, but they could have cut this down still, I think.
Some trimming here.
It was okay. It just wasn't for me. I get why people like it. Not my thing. There we go. That's it, honestly.
All right. Before we go, anyone else? Let me just do the honors and mention the awards. This movie won Best Picture. Its competitions were Atonement, a movie that I don't know much about. Michael Clayton, I might have heard the name. There Will Be Blood, also that, and
oh my god. Ugh.
Yes.
I love There Will Be Blood. How the?
I was about to mention the one instead that I do know, Juno.
Yeah, that's a better movie too.
Yeah, the only ones I've recognized are Juno and No Country for Old Men of that list, I'll admit.
The Coens also won Best Directors, where the competitions were the directors of The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, Juno, Michael Keaton, There Will Be Blood.
There's some things about Juno that haven't aged the best in 2023, but the movie, I'll argue, still has some nice stuff to, and you can still get a lot out of that movie still.
Tommy Lee Jones was nominated for Best Actor, but it lost to Daniel Day-Lewis in The Will Be Blood. Best Supporting Actor got won by Javier Bardem, with the other, qualified being Tom Wilkinson for Michael Clayton, Hal Holbrook for Into the Wild, Philip Seymour Hoffman for Charlie Wilson's War, and Casey Affleck for The Assassination of Jesse James by the Carl Robert Ford. And the other awards that I think I see here is Best Adapted Screenplay, where this movie won it, competing against Atonement, The Diving Bell Butterfly, There Will Be Blood, and Away From Here. To mention, Ratatouille, I think it was in the animated, but again, that's not for the purpose of this movie. It was just for what you mentioned. Okay, there was technically also the best sound editing, but it did lost it to The Bourne Ultimatum, which, sure, I guess.
It's funny you mention Ratatouille, because again, how funny it is that we had two movies in 2007 where the main antagonist's name is Anton.
Okay, now, okay. Now this is bullshit because the visual effect was won by the Golden Compass, and I'm like, no.
Oh, the Golden Compass!
The competition were Pirates of the Caribbean at War's End and the First Bayformers, so I guess it wasn't much.
No, I'm sorry. Pirates of the Caribbean had some pretty great visual effects.
I don't
whatever.
remember. Yeah, I don't remember the visual effects being bad.
And even Transformers, I would argue, had good visual effects. So, like,
we're dragging off
right,
just to mention the other thing before anyone else moves forward. I searched a bit and discovered that Cormac McCarthy, the author of the original novel, is also the author of The Road.
never heard of it.
The Road is one of the primary.
Hold on. I will tell you the super easy mode. Have you seen or played The Last of Us?
Yes.
Have you seen Logan?
Wait, was The Road
you've
that
read The Road.
movie?
Have you seen The Road? Because
There's
The Road
also a movie with Viggo Mortensen.
The Road has been the essential trope codifier for disaster future. Single father has to raise a kid in this climate.
Oh
Yeah.
my god!
Well, there was also the Children of Men as well.
And technically the Walking Dead video game.
Not to mention like let me put it this way, like it's one of those things where like let me put it this way, The Last of Us, one of the primary inspirations for Last of Us is indeed The Road, and to be fair, it's not like Naughty Dog ever hit that fat. To be fair,
I just wish German journalists would remember that, but that's not a problem with the team.
well,
But
there have been plenty of people that have said that the movie takes a lot of stuff from The Road.
whatever. That was just to mention. Anyway,
Pedro.
who's next?
I actually wanted to mention something now that I have time about the whole thing about see. My thing about this is about the whole, randomness thing. For me, it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, even if I'm going to accept that, I just don't see what can be gained from having these two characters, Llewellyn and Anton. I mean, just get randomly defeated in such a sudden, way that was not properly built up, which kind of feels like Cormac McCarthy didn't know how to end these characters' storylines, so he just says, Llewellyn randomly gets killed off by people. Anton has a car crash.
I think another parallel with this would be something like A Song of Ice and Fire, which is the set of books of which Game of Thrones was an adaptation of. But that I feel feels a bit more justified because those stories want to portray this exact thing that this movie did, as in a traditional black and white morality story with a hero and a villain is just a fairy tales of people get killed. Instead, is more quote unquote realistic ways, even if what appears to be a fantasy story.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that adds an edge of it is that it has more characters and a longer time to juggle things through. So you do get the time to get attached to characters. So when you get a shock death, you're like, God damn it.
And once again, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, no matter how many times it's needed. Realistic writing doesn't necessarily mean your writing is good.
No.
That being said,
I generally stand to what Hitchcock said. I still struggle to see the point of pushing realism into fictional media because that's the entire point of it.
Realism speaks a lot to
I can go outside and touch grass if I want realism.
Realism speaks to people in a lot of media. I would say there is an art to working realism in it, but here's what I also say. Don't let, supposedly making realism distract you from making a good story. Like, again, don't overdo it with a villain just because you think, oh, it's more realistic if this villain has a big and deep reason to be the villain. Like, if it gets to the point where that villain still ain't good, adding reason to that villain's villainy won't necessarily help the plot. Sometimes it is good to just have a villain who revels in being evil. The reasons be damned or whatnot. But
like
anyway...
the Joker in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, like the Joker in The Dark Knight, or heck, like, kind of like Scar in Lion King. Again, like, a lot of the Disney Renaissance villains actually...
Shova, we know the backstory that explains why Scar wants to take revenge on Mufasa, don't we?
Hey, what a shock! That was a backstory that arguably made things worse, but no.
Okay, to be fair, I think it's more so that the backstory is shit rather than the fact... I still think giving Scar a backstory is not inherently a bad idea.
Oh, I agree. Okay, let me say this. Even though I'm fine with villains who are just villains for the sake of being villains, that doesn't mean I'm against giving them backstories. No, my main problem is when, again, writers delve way too much in trying to justify the villainy of a villain to the point where sometimes the backstory they give is just utter crap or really not something anyone would buy, but the story is not aware of that. Or in the case where, again, it really makes things worse. But, okay, to bring things back to how it could have been helped by having the characters die the way they did. Again, it is not for everyone, but in the sense of the theme that, again, this is a world that has gone past how the traditional old cops and robbers story would go, with a definitive defeat of the bad guy by the good guy, I do feel that this is something that fuels that theme. Again, it's not gonna be for everyone. I can get why this would have been a thing that worked out in 2007, though. Because 2007 had a good variety of films here, so you didn't have, like, a trend where you were seeing this constantly. I will say this, if we had seen this stuff more constantly in 2007, I definitely feel like this would not have gotten the praise it did, because people would have been worn out if every movie were like this. In a year like 2007, this was definitely a year you could afford to have something unorthodox thanks to that variety, so that at the very least, you know, even if people were put down by this movie, they'd have other ones to go to, so they could still probably enjoy this. Whereas, say, again, when people complain about certain trends that certain companies do, it's because they get tired of them doing this over and over again. That's just my 2 cents anyway.
Continue, Pedro.
Well, actually, I actually properly started. I'll stay at the end. I'll let Jova continue.
No. You can go on with your thoughts.
My problem with this movie is that it tries to make it so that this entire topic of the whole life sucks and and we just can't understand how much life sucks as we get older shit. I don't think it's inherently a bad concept. I just don't think this movie does a good job in actually exploring that topic. Most of the time, we just see people chasing each other. Like they don't the conversations don't actually explore that topic. They're mostly just conducting the plot. And like for example, Uri wasn't talking about how you have to get away here because you can't reason with this guy and shit. But the actual main theme of this movie is never properly explored. Let me explain something like this, for example, just to give you a basic idea. See, look at Detroit Become Human. Don't worry, I'm going somewhere with this. The only thing that movie has to say is racism is bad. Racism and slavery is bad. That's all that game has to say. Okay, and the same thing with Life is Strange 2. All those games know how to say is racism is bad. Racism is bad. And
also politics.
And whatever. The point is, okay, I get it, game, and I agree. But what else do you have to say? Do you have something interesting to say about that topic? Like how about you meditate on why racists feel the way they do, why it's wrong that they feel this way, and where exactly are these feelings even coming from in the first place? There's no actual exploration of the topic to its depth. This is the same problem I had with this movie. This movie talks about how life is random and horrible things happen and blah blah blah, and like Jova said, the whole, for as much, like, even someone as important as Llewellyn can just be randomly killed. That's just how fragile life is. Okay, cool. Can you actually get to the nitty-gritty of that instead of just saying it? Because I don't see the meat. There's no meat in this topic. There isn't. There's nothing to chew on. All this movie does is talk about how life sucks, and that's it. But it doesn't actually try to explain why life sucks. Why specifically? What are the specific reasons? How this phenomenon that Tommy Lee Jones keeps rambling about? Okay, what are the ramifications of this phenomenon? Why do you think this is the case? And what can we do to possibly make this maybe less sucky? There's no actual conversation or exploration of these topics. And combined with the fact that the actual plot that we go through feels unsatisfying because I still don't give a crap about the characters because I know barely anything about them. The confrontation is literally non-existent between Tommy Lee Jones never even meets Anton once.
Actually, he does.
Does he?
Well, okay. Not directly, but he is about to get killed in the motel when he finds Josh Brolin's character is dead. But the only reason he doesn't get killed is because Anton flips his coin.
Okay, I guess then. Even still, though, like, there's no satisfying. We have these three characters, and they're on a cat and mouse chase. Okay, okay. So who's gonna get who? Is Tommy Lee Jones gonna get to Anton first? Is Anton gonna get to Llewellyn? Does Llewellyn manage to get away? What's gonna happen? And we don't get any interesting payoff from this. Llewellyn gets randomly killed. Anton gets in a random car accident and just walks away. And Tommy Lee Jones once again just sits on ass talking about how much life sucks. That's all. That's the big payoff we've been building up to, folks.
Although Tio did mention we kind of talked over that last bit, so it could have been potentially something more than that.
Sure, but even still, though, couldn't you come up with a more interesting climax than this?
I think it's because that's not really what the movie was going for in that regard.
I mean, I can also make an argument that the shitty. I can also make an argument that the shitty ending, that the shitty plot twists of Book of Harry are, is trying to be that kind of movie. It's not trying to be like you can use that to defend any movie. Like,
well, again, for me, it's not so much a defense. It's just about where. This is a type of thing where, for the type of movie it's trying to be, it does hit the right points, but if you're not into what this movie is trying to go for, you're not going to like it. Again, obviously, no doubt, but, like, compare this to something like Book of Henry. That one was doing stuff just absolutely nonsensical, not in the sense that it was fulfilling a theme, but in the sense that, nope, the writers really thought this was genius, and yeah, no, this totally worked. Never mind the fact that blatantly did not work in that film.
Build-ups need payoffs, and I don't consider what we get at the end of this a payoff. It's unsatisfying. It's not. Like, it's just like whatever point you're trying to make here, you could... Okay, how about this? If you really want to focus, how about this? All the time we spend with Llewellyn and Anton throughout this movie, how about this? Remove these two characters and make an actual movie that's just characters talking, but they actually talk about and examine the topic of life sucking and why does it suck. I would prefer that over this, because the entire cat and mouse chase that they do feels unsatisfying, because I haven't really gotten anything out of this movie aside from the fact that life sucks, and that's it. That's really it. Like, because I don't care about the characters. I think the climax is really lame, and the overall presentation, the way the movies made. I don't think this was the right decision. I still think that those 10 scenes and the chase sequences would have been far better and more engaging if there were at the very least some minor drum little beat, like Teos was saying. I'm not saying I'm not saying I want a John Williams score, but at the very least, create some atmosphere with some fucking music. That's the whole reason you put music in movies to begin with. It's just like, I think this movie is just utterly boring and empty and has nothing interesting to say. It knows what it wants to say, but it doesn't have anything interesting to say about that topic. That's my thing, basically. Jova.
All right, then. Yeah, no, I'll admit, I was not sure what I would think about this movie from the get-go. Again, like with Gone Girl, I saw that it got a lot of praise, but I'd heard from my co-commentators on their first commentary that they really didn't like it, so I wasn't sure what to expect. Now, I had seen, some little talks about it here or there, but never really a full-on review of the matter. So this is, for all intents and purposes, my first time fully experiencing this movie, and I'll say I like it. I get what it's trying to do, and I feel that it performs it well. That being said, I'm not gonna say that I love it. I have seen plenty of westerns that I enjoyed more. I get the audience that this movie is for. I'm not strictly a part of it. I do like westerns, even neo-westerns. But I would have rather we had a climax that was, cool, rip-roaring, and one that ends with Tommy Lee Jones defeating Anton, showing that there is a place for old men in this country.
Yeah, that would have been a cool way of capping off the theme. I agree with that.
That said, my personal feelings aside, I was still able to enjoy this release. I feel like this is a movie that has a theme and doesn't try to tell it in a pretentious manner. It just tells it straight. Kind of like the straight story, there's a lot of scenes that you really wonder, do we need these? But in the end, I do see where they add up to. That being said, I'm going to agree that a lot of these scenes could have been trimmed down on. Like, not completely cut, but like maybe trimmed down a bit. I feel like, again, no scene truly feels worthless in this movie. They all, at the end, do have a point in that regard. And I do like how it is a look in morality, you know? Like, is it really black and white? Should you look at it in black and white? Because, again, just because you're supposedly doing the right thing doesn't mean it's going to turn out well for you. Ergo with Llewellyn, who tries to return the money, and, again, for all his troubles, he ends up dead. Is it because of that, or is it a random act of God? Well, his machinations led him to that point either way. Similar thing with Anton, who finally does get his comeuppance, again, by the very thing that he worships, that being the randomness and, you know, the absolute neutral value of life and what judgment will be passed on you in that regard. It just so happens it's a car accident out of nowhere that pretty much gets him. And if it's not an end to his life, it is very much an end to his career as an assassin. The guy who comes out relatively unscathed is Tommy Lee Jones's character, ironically enough, which, again, does feel interesting. Now, again, for my personal preferences, I would have much rather this could have at least gone on a more bombastic end, but I can understand why they didn't do it. I will say this. Like I said, I like this movie. I do get why people praised it, but it's not something that I would go out of my way to watch either. It's like, oh, if it's on, I'll watch it. Or, hey, if someone asks me to watch it with them, I'll watch it. Won't have to do a gritted teeth, and I can still enjoy it for the most part. I'm fine with the lack of music. I feel like the bouts where they do build up tension, they do that well. And for the action scenes, also well shot. I feel like, you know, Anton is definitely the designated sociopath. I didn't really get the supposed thing where everyone's speaking dull like Dwibs in that regard. I felt like, you know, those who were acting more human acted more human in that regard. Simple as that. So no, I feel like the acting is on point. I'm fine with the writing. Yeah, this is overall a good, fine film. And again, like with Gone Girl, I can get the praise here. That being said, unlike Gone Girl, this is a movie that I actually like, and I'm like, I definitely do feel like this movie at least earned its praise, whereas Gone Girl was definitely a thing where I feel like it was better praised more so for aspects of it than the movie as a whole. But overall, it's a fine enough good time. If you're really into this type of film, yes, this is probably some state-of-the-art stuff. If you're not, Again, if you're into westerns, give it a look and see if you love it or not. Tio, close us out with your final thoughts.
As usual, is accustomed to this kind of thing. I don't remember much of what I said in the original commentary, so disregard that, considering how old it was and everything, you know, and just for this. I don't know. I understand what this movie is trying to do, but it's probably just me, but I still was relatively bored by this. Like I think I get it more this time around what they are trying to do, but I don't know. I can understand also the points of being against it because of how unconventional it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there would have been way to potentially satisfy both parties. You know, like for example, Josh Brolin's character's death, for example. The idea behind it is to make sure that the confrontation with Javier Van Damme's character was relatively meaningless, and instead it has to be an external factor that kills to showcase how ruthless and illogical and unsatisfying the world is. Have it that it still has another confrontation with Javier Bardem, you know, And he does, and what he's managing to escape, it's that other third party that kills him, So you still do get some kind of, another action scene, a potential payoff with the characters involved, but you still have your message coming across in some way. Sure, it probably will still, be unsatisfying for all people, but it probably will be better from what we got.
That actually does make me wonder, Pedro, as the person most familiar with the book, how book accurate are Anton and...
Pedro already mentioned the movie is a 1-to-1 representation. From
what I can tell, this movie, and from what I've heard over the years, and I'm actually reading the synopsis right now, from what I'm seeing right here, it seems like the movie, outside of cutting some stuff for the sake of, runtime, it's what makes it in. It's basically a page-by-page dictation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then.
And keep in mind that apparently the original book was, from the few things that I see from TV tropes, was actually conceived as a screenplay. So they kind of had an easy mode going for. But anyway, what I understand also the themes of the movie, as in, don't go around, take the money from the dead because, you will get your comeuppance one way or another. Don't mind in the business that are not yours, essentially. Again, the way it's conveyed, it's so dry. Again, we have mentioned about the fact that the major difference with the book is the fact that a couple of scenes were apparently cut. I think the best comparison would be sucking away the juices out of a fruit. It's still good to eat, I'm guessing, but I can tell you that it will not be for everyone, just as it would have been as it was ripened. Apologies for the food analogy, but easiest to go through.
Delicious.
The rest is stuff that we have mentioned in the movie itself. I don't think the acting is that too much of a problem. I think if anything, it's a good variation compared to, again, the stereotypical Texan who goes hee-haw, and shooting deers and drinking beers. That's how I roll, that kind of stuff. And if anything, I think it serves to reflect again the general tone of dreary sadness and misery that these characters are passing through one way or the other. What I would say is that what I reiterate what I said from the movie is that I do get the tension given by Javier Bardem as a character, regardless of what I may feel or not for other characters. Whenever I see Javier Bardem's character on screen, I do get the idea how much of danger this is, and whoever is sharing a scene with is not safe at all, and we need to see exactly if they get away with it, how, in case what kind of thing will happen. It's kind of like I said, it's like watching a slasher movie. And again, the fact that he has a personal type of weapon, in this case an air compressor, with I don't think anyone else had done it before, gives even a sense of originality than having this stock knife that and everyone would have, or a simple revolver because we're in Texas. No, there is a sense of personality to his dryness, but surprisingly enough. Again, it's just not a movie for me. And I can be actually happy with that because what I understand also the lack of catharsis that this movie is going for. I have to admit that I too am still not satisfied with its presence. Like I understand where it is. I don't think there shouldn't be at all in movies, but I cannot bring myself to like it. That's it. That being said, if there's someone who actually likes this movie, which apparently seems to be, the majority in this case, I actually do not mind. But I think that's kind of it. I'm just glad that again we can put this over, and whatever we're watching next from the Cohen will probably be a more pleasant experience.
Next up, I'll pick The Big Lebowski. That's probably the most easy to get into movie that they've made.
At least for glimpse's sake. But yeah, and also when it comes also to our older stuff, when it comes to the very old stuff that probably involves just the five of us, what really remains are some of the early Shyamalan movies like The Village in Signs. So we're good to go in trimming most of our old catalog. Anyway, that's kinda it. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you happen to be a person who actually liked this movie, apologies. We're just trying to, tell us what we think individually. And we'll see you for whatever we'll do next. Yeah.
Ta-ta!